Chapter 26. Your career line is not starting at the right point. At this point 4 years later, you should still be in school. How can you have a small peak in your career? Remy frowned and scratched his head, looking extremely puzzled. Hermione smiled smugly. See, your way of divination is not reliable at all. Harry also smiled. Just as Hermione was about to take her hand away, Ronald, who was sitting opposite her, suddenly spoke. Could it be that Hermione joins the student union and becomes a prefect? Ronald said, if it's 4 years later, we'll just be in the 5th grade, and 5th graders can indeed run for prefect. My brother Percy is the prefect now. As if a keyword was triggered, as soon as Ronald finished speaking, Percy, who was sitting not far away, immediately took over the conversation. Yes, in 5th grade you can run for prefect, and in 7th grade you can run for student union president and president, but only the best students can take on these 2 jobs, Percy introduced, revealing a hint of pride. Well, it's not that hidden actually. After listening to Ronald and Percy's introduction, Hermione looked at Remy in surprise, and her hand, which was about to be retracted, unconsciously returned to Remy's hand. Remy was delighted and smiled at Ronald. Thank you, you are such a good wingman, I give you full marks for this assist. Looking at Remy's smile, Ronald didn't understand what was going on, but he just felt something was wrong. His intuition told him that he shouldn't have spoken out loud, let alone said those words. What the hell, what's with this inexplicable feeling of regret? After thinking for a long time without any idea, Ronald decided to continue eating. Opposite him, Remy, holding Hermione's little hand, continued to read Hermione's palm. I have already watched 2 of the 3 major plots, and only the love plot is left. Remy observed carefully for a long time, then he let out a sigh and smiled under Hermione's nervous gaze. It's not convenient to talk about the future of this line publicly. Come closer and I'll tell you quietly. Remy said. Hermione quickly leaned her ear over, and then she heard Remy whisper in her ear. I think you will marry me in the future. Boo, the real purpose is revealed. And Remy wasn't molesting Hermione. It's not polite if you don't reciprocate. Hermione kissed him without permission before, and now he kissed her back. This is called give and take. It's polite to give and take. Hermione was stunned when she felt someone kiss her face, and then her face quickly heated up. Nonsense. How could I possibly? You must be talking nonsense. I don't believe it. After lightly hitting Remy, Hermione fell on the table in panic and buried her head tightly in her arms. Seeing Remy suddenly kiss Hermione, everyone around was stunned, and then they all smiled. At this moment, no one cares whether Remy's divination is accurate or not. Anyone who is not a fool can understand that Remy has other intentions. Many people even looked as if they had learned something and were eager to look at the person they loved in their hearts. The dinner went on for a while and the auditorium gradually became quiet. Many little wizards yawned and looked drowsy. Especially the little wizards who just entered school this year. Seeing this, Dumbledore picked up a spoon and knocked on a golden cup, making a rhythmic and crisp sound. This sound could represent nobility to some extent, just like the sound of 2 high-end red wine glasses colliding. Well, it could also be the sound of a heart breaking. With a knock, the food on all the tables disappeared, and Headmaster Dumbledore stood up again. Everyone should be well fed and well drunk now. Before you return to your dormitories, I would like to tell you some things you should pay attention to when studying at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. First of all, first-year students, please note that the forest in the school is a forbidden forest. No one is allowed to enter without permission. Some senior students also need to pay special attention to this. As he spoke, Headmaster Dumbledore looked around at the students of the 4 major colleges, and focused on the Gryffindor table for a while. Secondly, the administrator of Hogwarts Castle hopes that I can remind everyone not to cast spells in the corridors during class breaks, otherwise it will be dangerous to yourself and your classmates. Also, students who are interested in signing up for the Quidditch team should find Ms. Hodge to sign up before the 2nd week of this semester. Don't miss it. At this point, Dumbledore glanced at Remy, feeling a little hesitant. After a moment's thought, Dumbledore continued, finally, I must solemnly inform you that there are some new changes in Hogwarts Castle this year. If you don't want to suffer an unexpected and painful death, please be sure not to enter the corridor on the right side of the 4th floor. Drop, 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 drop. Remy's eyes lit up. The code has been received and decoded, set off immediately. Target, the corridor on the right side of the 4th floor. Now, let's sing the school song together. Dumbledore waved his hand, and music scores appeared in the air and floated towards the many young wizards. Everyone can choose their favorite piece. Ready, sing. Following the command, everyone started singing, either happily, helplessly or listlessly. Hogwarts, 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 please teach us knowledge. Whether we are bald old men or a child who broke his knee, our minds can accept some interesting things. Because now our brains are empty, full of air, dead flies and trifles, teach us some valuable knowledge, give us back what we have forgotten, just do your best and leave the rest to us. We will study hard until we are reduced to dust. The rhythm doesn't exist, the singing skills don't exist, and even the off-tune doesn't exist. Because everyone's music is different, and different accompaniments are intertwined, there is no tune at all, so how can it be out of tune? Remy didn't even sing but just read it because he couldn't find the tune. After the Weasley twins, who had the slowest tempo, finished singing the school song with a funeral march, Headmaster Dumbledore happily announced that the prefects of each house would lead the new students of their respective houses back to their dormitories. This made everyone, including the professors, feel relieved. The previous school song segment was really messy. The young Gryffindor wizards stood up and followed their prefect Percy out. Remy was about to leave when he found that Hermione did not stand up, and she did not sing the school song before. Are you asleep? Remy poked Hermione and asked softly. When Hermione didn't respond, Remy rolled his eyes. There's nothing I can do. At this time, it seems that only I, your boyfriend, can carry you back to rest. As soon as she finished speaking, before Remy could extend his hand, Hermione stood up and walked quickly towards the entrance of the auditorium. Remy smiled slightly and stood up to follow. At the entrance of the Great Hall, Remy saw the Hogwarts Castle Warden handing Percy a piece of parchment with the list of dormitories for this year's freshmen at Gryffindor College written on it. Chapter 27. Walking out of the hall, climbing the marble stairs, and passing through a long corridor full of moving portraits, Percy led everyone into a secret passage behind a curtain. Not long after walking out of the secret passage, Percy led everyone into another secret passage. I once heard from my teacher that Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry was originally established to shelter homeless wizards who were persecuted by ordinary people. Therefore, there are many secret passages in Hogwarts Castle to prevent ordinary people from breaking in and hiding in time. Remy introduced Hermione. Hermione didn't say anything, just nodded and hummed softly. After walking for about 5 more minutes, Percy finally led everyone to a huge portrait of a lady who looked very wealthy. Password, said the portrait. Dragon scum. As Percy responded to the command, the portrait slowly opened to reveal a circular passage behind it. Following the passage, everyone came to a round room filled with soft armchairs and sofas. There was also a fireplace on the wall facing the passage that was not burning at the moment. The girls' dorm is on the left, and the boys' dorm can be reached by going upstairs through the door on the right. The boys will wait here for a moment while I take the ladies to their dorms. As he spoke, Percy motioned for the girls to follow him, but he suddenly noticed a stranger had mixed into the group. Your name is Remy, right? I'm going to take them to the girls' dormitory now. You wait here and I'll take you to the boys' dormitory later. Percy said. I know, I just want to go to the girls' dormitory and take a look. Remy said calmly, even acting as if it was a matter of course. I am honest and I am proud. Then you have to be disappointed. Boys are not allowed to enter the girls' dormitory, not even this passage. Percy said. Oh, then why were you able to enter? Remy asked. Percy puffed out his chest, because I'm a prefect. Oh, so if you become a prefect you are no longer a man? Remy asked. Percy was stunned for a moment and then shook his head. The Gryffindor female prefect will have to come to Hogwarts 2 days later for some reasons, so I will take them to the girls' dormitory today. Oh, tell me, how much did you bribe the female prefect? I'll pay double. You. Percy's face darkened and he immediately panicked because he noticed that the looks from people around him, both boys and girls, were not right. Especially his younger brother. Remy, stop talking nonsense. Do you think everyone is like you? Hermione said dissatisfiedly. Remy thought for a moment and nodded vigorously. You still understand me? Feeling that everyone was looking at her, Hermione blushed and walked quickly towards the passage on the left. Seeing Remy walking towards the sofa on her own, Percy breathed a sigh of relief, hurriedly led the girls into the passage, and closed the door at the end. As soon as the door closed, Ronald immediately ran to Remy's side. Awesome! This is the first time I've seen someone embarrass Percy like this. Even George and Fred haven't done it before. Remy looked at Ronald speechlessly. Your brother was so embarrassed by me, and yet you are so happy? Your circle is so chaotic. I hope we can be assigned to the same dormitory, otherwise we will have to move our luggage later. I just want to sleep now. Harry said listlessly. I really don't have any dreams. I just want to go to the girls' dormitory now. Remy said. Harry. What kind of dream is this? You are clearly delusional. After a while, Percy opened the door and came out of the girls' dormitory area, then led the boys into the dormitory area. Going up the spiral staircase to the second floor, Percy took the parchment and began to assign dormitories to everyone. Remy and Harry were assigned to the same dormitory, which made Harry breathe a sigh of relief. In addition to them, there are 3 other people living in the same dormitory with them, namely, Ronald, Neville, and Seamus. There were 5 large beds in the dormitory, draped with crimson velvet curtains. Everyone's luggage had long been delivered to the room and was now placed against the wall not far from the dormitory entrance. I choose the innermost bed. Is that okay with you? Remy asked. The 4 of them shook their heads at the same time, all looking listless. I'll take the one next to Remy. My luggage is all with Remy, so it will be more convenient for me to move things later. Harry said. Then I'll take the outermost one, closer to the door, Neville said. I'll sleep in the middle. Ronald said. With no choice left, Simo didn't care and didn't even say a word as he walked straight to the bed and started taking off his shoes. He picked up the suitcase and walked to his bed. Harry quickly followed and said he wanted to get his pajamas. Wait a minute, I brought a hanger. As he spoke, Remy took out several metal pipes of different lengths from the box and quickly put them together to make a floor-standing clothes hanger. This move immediately shocked the 4 young wizards who had never seen the world, and even made them more alert. Remy took out a lot of clothes for Harry, unloaded Harry's luggage piece by piece, and then sorted out his own things. First, he took out the boards, then Remy took out the metal pipes, and then he took out a lot of screws and tools. Under everyone's curious gaze, Remy began to piece it together into something that Harry thought looked very much like a display wall used to display goods in a supermarket, and there were indeed small hooks on it. Move it to the wall, close to it, and Remy takes out a bunch of things and puts them together to make a table. Seeing this, Harry finally couldn't help himself. Remy, are you opening a shop? Harry asked. Open a store? Not for now, but I will open it later. As he spoke, Remy bent down and took out the... I'm boiling. Harry and Seamus swore at the same time and stepped back quickly. Seeing their reactions, Ronald and Neville, confused, also quickly retreated. Why do you still have a gun? What do you want to do? Simo asked in a trembling voice. Is this big guy also a gun? Ronald and Neville quickly retreated further away. Don't worry, it's just routine maintenance. After saying that, Remy deftly disassembled it into a pile of parts and placed them on the table, then took out a piece of cloth and carefully wiped each component. Don't worry, I have always strictly abided by the principle of separation of guns and bullets, so there will be no safety hazards. You guys go to sleep first, don't worry about me. Remy said. Sleep? Sleep P. Who can sleep in this mess? After putting the last part together, Remy pointed the gun towards the window and pulled the trigger. After making sure it fired normally, Remy nodded with satisfaction and then hung it on the assembled display wall. Remy, do you know that your behavior has violated the laws of the wizarding world? Ronald said. No, I didn't break any laws. Remy turned around and looked at Ronald, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised in a smug expression. Chapter 28. I know that there is a special law in the wizarding world that controls items from the Muggle world, but it is obvious that the person who made this law does not understand the Muggle world, so there are many loopholes in this law. The current definition of a firearm in the wizarding world is, a strange weapon made by Muggles that can fire bullets after use. At the same time, there are only 2 crimes in the wizarding world regarding firearms. One is the crime of possessing a firearm, and the other is the crime of using a firearm. As he spoke, Remy squatted in front of the suitcase, took out a rifle from it and placed it on the table, then took out a bullet from his pocket and stood it up next to it. So when I kept the gun and the bullets separately, neither the gun nor the bullets met the legal definition of a firearm, which means they were not guns legally. So I did not possess a firearm, and naturally I did not commit a crime, Remy said. Ronald looked at the rifle, then at the bullet next to it, then at the bullet, and then at the gun next to it. His eyes began to circle. He has been confused. But, you have used a gun before, and there were bullets in the gun, said Simo. Remy nodded, then shook his head. This is related to the definition of possession in the law. Possession can be understood as continuous possession, that is, it is necessary to maintain possession of the item for a period of time to be judged as possession. And I didn't exceed 10 seconds in total before, so I don't meet the time requirement of possession, so I still can't be arrested for possession of firearms. The four of them looked at each other. Although they did not fully understand what Remy meant, looking at Remy's confident and calm demeanor, they felt that what Remy said was very likely true. But, you used it. Harry suddenly said, doesn't that mean you used a firearm? You're right. Remy nodded and then shrugged nonchalantly. But unfortunately, there is a law in the wizarding world called the Underage Wizard Protection Act that will protect me. Therefore, even if I use a gun, as long as it does not cause serious harm or loss to others, I will not be locked up. At most, it will be like what Professor McGonagall did today, confiscating the gun and giving me criticism and education. Everyone. Does this mean that the laws of the wizarding world can no longer stop you? You are the next Dark Lord, right? No, it should be called the Grey Lord. The Ministry of Magic has no reason to arrest you. I think I should write a letter to my father and tell him about it. My father works in the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts department at the Ministry of Magic, and that's what he's in charge of. Ronald whispered. You can write now. Oh, I forgot about the owl. Remy and Harry quickly got up and took out their own and Harry's owls. Seeing that the two owls were still alive, Remy and Harry both breathed a sigh of relief. No, I just said it casually, don't worry, I won't. I mean it. Remy interrupted Ronald. It takes time to amend the law. By the time the law is amended, I will definitely no longer need these things. My goal is to create a magical gun that is 100% made in the wizarding world and can fire magic. When Simo heard Remy talking about his goal, his eyes lit up, but then he became confused. I've seen my mother use magic. Now that I think about it, magic doesn't seem to be as powerful as a gun. Seamus said, why do you want to make magic guns? To use guns legally in the wizarding world? Of course not. Remy smoothed his hair and pointed at the gun on the table. I have done experiments with my teacher before. Not to mention this automatic rifle, even a powerful heavy sniper rifle can be blocked by entry-level protective magic. Even if a fired bullet happens to be hit by a magic spell like the disarming spell, although the probability is very low, once it collides, the bullet will stop instantly and fall to the ground, without any power at all. I also used a whole piece of dragon meat with dragon skin to do an experiment. Even armor-piercing bullets could not penetrate the 10 cm thick dragon meat. If it was an ordinary 5.56 mm bullet, even a single shot could not penetrate even a thicker dragon skin. And the fresher the dragon meat, the less damage the gun can cause. I guess it's because fresh dragon meat contains more magic power. It's a pity that the teacher didn't agree to let me go to the dragon farm to use live dragons for experiments, otherwise maybe I would have unlocked the Dragon Slayer achievement by now. Everyone gasped. Slaying a dragon? How dare you think about it? But at the same time, the four of them were happy. It turns out that the most common protective magic can resist firearms. I have decided that I must study hard when I learn about protective magic in the spells class. Okay, you guys take a rest first. I'll try to be as quiet as possible. Remy said, then turned around and continued to disassemble and clean the gun. After hearing what Remy said, everyone was immediately awakened from sleepiness. After watching for a while to get over the novelty, the four of them went to bed. It's just that everyone dreams about Remy and the gun at night. This is not a good dream. The next morning, when the four saw the display wall next to Remy's bed filled with various guns, they were devastated. Are you kidding me? Remy, this is too outrageous. What is he going to do? Open a gun shop in Hogwarts? Seamus complained. I can't understand how he brought so many things to Hogwarts, Neville muttered. Harry did not join in the complaints, but walked to Remy's bed and nudged Remy who was sleeping soundly. Remy, wake up, we should go to class. Harry said. What classes do we have today? Remy asked dazedly, rubbing his eyes. This morning we have history of magic class. I heard that the professor teaching history of magic is a ghost. I'm not interested. I won't go. No, I'll go after I wake up. Everyone. You wanna skip class on your first day? Did you mean what you said yesterday? Are you really here to deduct points from Gryffindor? We are Gryffindor, not Gryffindor. All three of them immediately looked at Harry. The meaning was very clear. You have the best relationship with him, you figure out a way. Harry nodded, gritted his teeth and continued to push Remy. Remy, we just arrived at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Hurry up and get up. Come back after class and then go back to sleep. It's the first class, how inappropriate would it be not to go? Be careful, the professor calls you parents. After much persuasion, Remy, who was fed up with the constant noise, had to reluctantly leave the warm and soft bed that he loved so much. Get up, change clothes, and wash up. Remy was in a daze the whole time and didn't even know how to get to the restaurant, let alone enter the classroom. He had no impression at all. He was maintaining the gun until dawn last night and didn't sleep for very long. After entering the classroom, Remy was so sleepy that he fell asleep immediately. Until Chapter 29. The earliest recorded record of wizards was around 500 AD, but the exact year is no longer known. The first wizard in recorded history was Merlin, so Merlin is known as the greatest wizard, the first wizard, the sage, the guide, etc. However, there has been controversy over these titles in the magic history community for hundreds of years, so there is no definitive conclusion. Remy was drowsy when he heard the almost transparent ghost Professor Binns talking about the origin of wizards and the first wizard Merlin. He suddenly became alert and raised his hand. However, Cuthbert Binns did not notice him at all, and even Cuthbert Binns did not look at any of the students at all, and just continued to tell the story of Merlin's life. Teacher, I have a question to ask you. Remy said. Remy's words interrupted Cuthbert Binns' story and attracted many curious looks, especially Hermione. She remembered what Remy had said to her yesterday, when Remy said he had no interest in history at all. Oh, you are Remy Barrett, right? What's your question? Cuthbert Binns thought for a long time and then nodded. Well, you just said that the earliest record of wizards was around 500 AD, right? Yes, what's the matter? But when I bought a wand in Diagon Alley, I saw a sign at Ollivander's wand shop saying that their family had been making wands since 382 BC. Could it be that wands appeared earlier than wizards? Hearing Remy's question, many students began to discuss quietly and looked at Cuthbert Binns curiously. They had all been to Ollivander's wand shop to buy wands, and many of them had seen the introduction. My subject is history of magic, and I study facts, not myths and legends. Cuthbert Binns spoke in a calm and even tone, as if there was nothing agitated inside him. The earliest record that can be found is around 500 AD. Anything before that can only be considered a myth. It is not within the scope of my research. Is that so? Remy nodded thoughtfully. Any questions? Asked Cuthbert Binns. No, there is another question. Remy said, Cuthbert Binns, do you know how the first wizard appeared? If you mean Merlin, the first recorded wizard, there is no historical record of who his parents were, only a legend, said Cuthbert Binns. Remy's eyes lit up and he quickly asked, what legend is that? Cuthbert Binns frowned and seemed reluctant to speak, but he finally spoke. First of all, I don't agree with this legend. I don't agree with any legend. According to the legend, Merlin's mother was an ordinary human woman, a Muggle, and she combined with a magical creature called the incubus to give birth to Merlin. But the magic world has not yet found a magical creature like the incubus, and there is no record of the incubus in history books, said Cuthbert Binns. Could it be an alias? For example, Vila. But the people at that time or Merlin's mother didn't know Vila, so they gave her the name of a nightmare. Remy asked. Cuthbert Binns shook his head, looking a little impatient. I don't know this, and I don't study it. If you don't have any other questions, I will continue the class. Oh, okay. Listening to Cuthbert Binns continuing to narrate the history of the past in his flat voice, Remy did not feel sleepy, but his mind was already floating in the sky. Until Hermione suddenly handed him a notebook with the words, "Didn't you say yesterday that you have no interest in history at all?" Coming back to his senses, Remy picked up the quill. I am not interested in history, but I am very interested in the origin of wizards and want to study it clearly. Soon, Remy received another reply from Hermione, "Why are you interested in this issue?" After hesitating for a while, Remy wrote down his thoughts. If the origin of wizards can be studied clearly, perhaps ordinary people who are not wizards can be artificially given magical powers, thus turning them into wizards. Hermione was stunned when she saw Remy's reply. She had not expected Remy to have such ambitious goals. Then, she thought of her parents. If her parents could become wizards, if more parents of Muggle-born little wizards could become wizards. "I'll go to the library with you after class to look up information," Hermione whispered. I didn't say I was going to look up information. Looking up information is so tiring and boring." Blinking, Remy decided not to speak his inner thoughts. He felt that if he did, Hermione would think he was just an empty dreamer. But he really didn't want to look up the information, not only because it was troublesome, but also because if the library could find the information, this question would not have remained unanswered until now. "I already have a plan for this, and I will tell you as soon as I come up with the results of my research." Remy wrote in his notebook and then handed the notebook to Hermione. As soon as she saw Remy's note, Hermione immediately became interested and asked Remy about the relevant plans. Remy did not hide it and told Hermione that he was a natural master of alchemy. Remy was born with alchemy skills, and the alchemy he mastered was very special, and he could use it even before his magic awakened. But at that time Remy couldn't make anything. He could only summon a scale that only he could see. It was useless except for looking at it. After the magic power is awakened, Remy can put magic power on one end of the scale and real objects on the other end, or neither. If you put an item at the other end, then this alchemy will be done with that item as the material. If you don't put it, then this alchemy will fail. The only exception is magic crystal. Magic crystal does not require a medium. Magic crystal is solid magic power created by Remy using alchemy. It takes 2 parts of magic power to refine one magic crystal. Initially, the magic crystals refined by Remy were inedible. It was necessary to use magic crystals as raw materials and consume magic power to refine them again before they could be converted into edible magic crystals. Since magic crystals can be created out of thin air, and magic crystals can be used as raw materials, in a sense Remy does have the ability to create things out of thin air. As long as he has enough magic power. The closer the raw material is to the desired final product, the less magic Remy needs to put in. At the same time, the more Remy understands and defines the characteristics of the desired final product, the less magic he will need to put in, and the success rate will be greatly improved. When Remy uses alchemy, if the magic power invested at one time is insufficient, or if he does not have a clear and distinct understanding of the final product, the alchemy will fail. As for the price of failure, it is naturally, boom shakalaka. Chapter 30. Before meeting Nicholas Flamel, Remy had done some alchemy and had made some interesting little things, but the failure rate was extremely high. Therefore, after roughly figuring out what his alchemy was all about, Remy no longer continued to use alchemy to create anything other than magic crystals. He has been waiting and hoarding magic crystals. Now that he has undoubtedly improved greatly compared to before, and finally arrived at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Remy feels that it is time to try to refine something truly useful. Start with something simple and go step by step. The biggest difference between Muggles and Wizards is whether they have magic power or not. There is also an intermediate group between Muggles and Wizards, and that is the Squibs. So I plan to refine magic cards first, to see if I can refine a magic card that can be used by Squibs. After class, Remy told Hermione about his ideas, and then remembered that Hermione didn't seem to know what magic cards were, so Remy gave Hermione 2 magic cards and explained them to her. Maybe because Hermione had already learned some daily magic, she had no difficulty using the magic cards and activated the magic inside very easily. This made Harry, who was eating at the same table, very envious. He still hadn't mastered the technique of using magic cards. "That's a great invention. Was it yours too?" Hermione asked. "No, this is my teacher's invention," Remy said. "Oh, but how can we turn them into magic cards that only Squibs can use?" "It needs to be injected with magic power before it can be used, but Squibs cannot control magic power," Hermione asked. "I have 2 ideas at the moment. One is to use magic cards directly as raw materials to refine them so that they can be physically activated and actively absorb the magic power in the holder's body. The other is to create a peripheral device that can be physically activated, actively absorb the magic power in the holder's body and transmit magic power," Remy said. "It sounds feasible. If you can really make this thing, which of these two options is easier to implement? Hermione asked after thinking for a moment. It depends on why the squibs can't control their magic. Remy said, from what I know, some squibs claim that they can't sense the magic in their bodies, while some squibs say that they can sense the magic in their bodies but just can't control it. If I can't sense the magic power in my body, that would be more troublesome. That means I need to add physical activation, active absorption of magic power, automatic stop after the magic power is full, or give feedback to the holder on the basis of the existing magic cards. That means at least 4 different effects. The more effects I add to the same item, the more magic power I need to spend, and the success rate will be greatly reduced. Even if I use multiple refining steps, if one of the steps fails, all the previous efforts will be wasted. Hermione and Harry nodded thoughtfully, only Ronald gave up listening after a while and focused on eating. This kind of academic stuff doesn't suit him very well. But if it's a peripheral, doesn't it also need so many effects? Harry asked after thinking for a while. Peripherals can be made up of multiple small parts, and I can attach different effects to each part and then combine them, just like a bunch of parts are finally combined into a gun, Remy explained. Now I understand when you put it that way. Harry and Hermione suddenly realized. Hermione even asked if the effect could be reduced if the squibs could sense the magic in their bodies, to which Remy answered in the affirmative. Looking at Hermione, who seemed to be deep in thought, Remy quickly reminded her that she couldn't ask the squibs directly about this kind of thing. Firstly, it was impolite, and secondly, they might not necessarily tell the truth. They might even have had illusions due to psychological reasons. The best approach would be to wait for him to make 2 different peripherals, then find a dud to experiment with. You will know the real situation once you try it. Maybe it's both, Hermione said, but who are you going to try it on? Mr. Filch, of course, said Remy. I heard from my brothers that Filch is a bad guy. His favorite thing to do is to punish students. It is almost impossible to persuade him to help. Ronald said in a muffled voice. What do you mean by asking him for help? It's clearly us helping him. If he doesn't want to, there are plenty of people who are willing. Remy said confidently. He didn't believe that any squib could resist the temptation of mastering magic. Even if someone says no, their body must be honest. After dinner, they chatted and rested for a while in the common room, and then continued their classes with other students. The afternoon class was Professor McGonagall's Transfiguration class. However, to the disappointment of all the little wizards, in the first Transfiguration class, although Professor McGonagall demonstrated several Transfiguration magics to them, he did not teach them. This is not only a theoretical class, but also a theoretical class with empty promises. After finishing a day's classes, many young wizards expressed their anticipation for tomorrow's classes, because tomorrow they will have defense against the dark arts and herbology classes. I heard that the herbology class will not be held in a classroom but in a greenhouse. Many young wizards showed great interest in greenhouse cultivation and various magical plants. The young wizards didn't know much about the defense against the dark arts class, but most of them seemed very excited when talking about this class, probably because the word dark magic in this class made it sound cool. But Remy didn't have any hope for this. How could Professor Quirrell teach them real skills? Rather than relying on what he taught them, they might as well rely on guns. After dinner, Remy immediately returned to the dormitory to prepare for his alchemy work. However, as soon as he entered the dormitory, he saw an uninvited guest, Principal Dumbledore. And at this moment he was looking at a wall of guns. Oh, you're back. I'm sorry to enter your dormitory without permission, but the house elf in charge of cleaning told me that very dangerous contraband was found in your dormitory, so I had to come over. Dumbledore turned around, pushed his glasses and said with a smile. Good on. Harry and the others swallowed and immediately looked at Remy and then quickly looked away. Compared to their panic, Remy was just stunned for a moment. He was not panicked at all and even greeted Dumbledore enthusiastically. Hi, Professor Dumbledore, it's been a while since we last met. How have you been? Remy asked. He met Dumbledore once, but only met once before Nicholas Flamel sent him back to his room, saying he had something important to discuss. Dumbledore nodded. It was fine, but now it's a bit of a headache. What do you think I should do with these things? Should I call your teacher? Chapter 31. Using my teacher to pressure me? Then you have the wrong idea. With a slight smile, Remy did not continue what Dumbledore said, but walked to the wall and pointed at the gun on it. Whichever one Professor Dumbledore likes, I can give it to you. I guarantee that I can kill Voldemort with one shot. I can kill Grindelwald with 2 shots. Remy said with a smile. Dumbledore. Nicholas Flamel. What on earth did you tell him, old man? After calming himself down, Dumbledore reached out and took down a gun from the highest point and held it in his hand to examine it. So these guns are extremely powerful? Dumbledore asked. It's not bad. The gun in your hand is the most powerful gun here, and it's also the masterpiece of my family. As he spoke, Remy reached out and took the gun from Dumbledore. The gun was very heavy and he had a little trouble holding it. But this did not affect his enthusiasm in introducing this treasure to Dumbledore. The Barrett M82A1 sniper rifle is a large-caliber anti-material sniper rifle. It took Barrett 8 years to develop it, and it was not until October last year that it was put into mass production and delivered to the Magnesium Army for use. It uses the principle of short barrel recoil and semi-automatic firing. Although it can only fire single shots, it does not need to be reloaded after each shot like the old bolt-action sniper rifles in World War I. The adjustable bipod is compatible with the M60 machine gun, and the grip is compatible with the M16A2 rifle, which is very user-friendly. A scope and a folding mechanical sight can be installed on the top of the gun body. The one currently installed is the standard M3 optical 10x Super Scope. At this point, Remy took off the scope and handed it to Dumbledore. Dumbledore continued to listen to Remy's introduction while playing with the scope as if it were a monocular. The gun body is 1447.8 mm long, the barrel is 736.7 mm long, the empty weight is 12.9 kg, and the combat weight is 14.8 kg. It is definitely a big gun among sniper rifles, and it is very impressive to show it off. Placing the gun on the table and removing the magazine, Remy reached into his inner pocket and fumbled around for a while before pulling out a giant bullet that was longer than his palm and thicker than his thumb. When this bullet appeared, not only did Harry and the others gasp, but even Dumbledore couldn't help but twitch his eyes. This gun has a magazine capacity of 10 rounds. The standard configuration is the same large caliber 12.7 x 99 NATO bullet as the Browning M2 heavy machine gun. It can also use the Norwegian Raufoss Mk211 armor-piercing incendiary bullet. The maximum range is up to 2,500 meters, and the effective range is up to 1,850 meters. You may not have any idea of the data I'm talking about, but let me put it this way. If you are hit in the chest by a bullet fired from this gun, your body will be instantly torn in two. It can even penetrate a train rail with ease. The body will be torn into two? Can the steel rails be easily penetrated? Remy's roommates broke out in cold sweats after hearing this. Because of its enormous power, it is mainly used in actual combat to remotely destroy sensitive enemy equipment, such as parked aircraft, radar installations, trucks, and various other important assets. The best part is that even though it's so powerful, its recoil is not that big among similar heavy sniper rifles. It can even be considered very small. Do you want to test fire it? It's never too late to buy more if you find it useful. Dumbledore. When did I say I was going to buy it? I'm clearly here for nothing, ahem, I'm clearly here to confiscate prohibited items. This kind of dangerous contraband is not something a young wizard of your age should be in possession of, said Dumbledore. Why are you saying the same thing as Professor McGonagall? This thing is neither dangerous nor contraband. Remy rolled his eyes, then told Dumbledore again the legal loophole he had mentioned to Harry and the others last night. After listening to Remy's speculation, Dumbledore was silent for a long time. But he did not remain silent because there were loopholes in the law, but was surprised that Remy had learned to exploit loopholes in the law at such a young age. This was horrible to Dumbledore. Even Voldemort was not as lawless as Remy, nor was he as shrewd as Remy. Remy, I don't think taking advantage of legal loopholes is something you should be proud of. Dumbledore said seriously. Coincidentally, I don't think banning Muggle items is something worth promoting. What reasonable reason does the Ministry of Magic have to ban Muggle items? Is it to prevent people in the magical world from discovering that Muggles have surpassed wizards in many ways? Remy asked. Dumbledore looked into Remy's violet eyes, pursed his lips, and finally shook his head. I don't know that. I'm just the principal of a magic school. I only know that keeping such dangerous contraband in the dormitory is a major safety hazard for you and your roommates. Dumbledore said solemnly. So I have to confiscate them, and the bullets in your pockets. Take them all out. I need them all away. Looking at the unquestionable serious expression on Dumbledore's face, Remy shook his head helplessly while taking out the bullet. You are too conservative, Professor Dumbledore. I hope you can think carefully about the future of the wizarding world in the coming time. To put it bluntly, if the wizarding world today goes to war with Muggles, any well-equipped special forces unit would be enough to sweep across the entire wizarding world, not to mention that Muggles have weapons that are far more powerful than these guns. Okay. Dumbledore nodded, I will seriously consider it. Remy took a box of bullets out of his pocket and placed it on the table. At first, everyone was surprised, and then they were shocked. Finally, when they saw the table full of bullets, Dumbledore and Harry's expressions were numb. It wasn't until the table creaked under the weight that Remy stopped and spread his hands to indicate that there was nothing left. Dumbledore, who had originally planned to test Remy to see if he had really taken out all the things after Remy stopped, had no intention of testing him at this moment. His only headache was how to take these things away and where to store them to ensure their safety. After thinking for a long time, Dumbledore took out his wand from his arms and used silent casting. With just a light wave of the wand, the table full of bullets and the guns on the wall all disappeared. Remy's eyes lit up. What kind of magic is this? The transference charm. You'll learn it when you reach 5th year. Dumbledore put away his wand and nodded slightly to the others. It's getting late, go to bed early, everyone. Before he finished speaking, Dumbledore disappeared in a flash. This move immediately stunned everyone including Remy, especially Remy. His eyes were full of envy. Noticing Remy staring blankly at the place where Headmaster Dumbledore disappeared, Harry came to his senses and stepped forward to pat Remy on the shoulder. Remy, don't be too sad. Headmaster Dumbledore didn't say he wouldn't return it to you. He should return it to you after the holidays. Harry comforted him. Remy glanced at Harry in confusion. Why should I be sad? As he spoke, Remy walked to the bed, pulled out the suitcase from under the bed and opened it. Under the incredulous gazes of Harry and his other roommates, Remy took out a gun from his suitcase. Chapter 32. You still have a gun? Ronald screamed and quickly covered his mouth. His eyes widened and his other hand trembled as if he had Parkinson's disease. Even a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows, let alone someone as smart as me. Remy shook his hair, called out to Harry, and threw the gun in his hand to Harry. One for each of you, take it and play with it. As you just saw, Headmaster Dumbledore just confiscated the guns. He didn't deduct any points or give me detention. After hearing Remy's words, everyone's eyes lit up, and their original fear of guns instantly turned into curiosity about guns. Before, they just watched Remy tinker with it, but now that they know Dumbledore's attitude, they can also confidently load the guns themselves. Each person got one, and even Simo asked if the Chicago typewriter given to him could be exchanged for a sniper rifle, saying that he liked sniper rifles. Remy will naturally meet this small request. Less than 5 minutes after Headmaster Dumbledore finished his dormitory inspection, the entire dormitory was transformed into a gun enthusiasts exchange meeting. I don't know if Principal Dumbledore will regret coming to check the dormitories after he finds out. After briefly introducing the composition of the guns to his roommates, Remy let them take them apart and play with them by themselves, while he took out a large pile of magic materials and began to select the materials needed for alchemy. It is not difficult to refine the items that Remy wants with the magic power he has now, but the difficult part is to refine them perfectly. That is, consuming the least cost. Fortunately, we are now in the experimental stage and do not need to consider the cost issue. We only need to consider the success or failure and what the final product will look like. As a senior member of the Appearance Association, Remy also has high requirements for the appearance of his works. After much thought, Remy decided to make gloves. The gloves are large enough and can be made from multiple pieces of cloth or leather, so I have enough parts. Thinking of this, Remy picked and chose among the magic materials, and finally Remy chose dragon skin and unicorn tail hair as the main materials. The untreated dragon skin is a little hard. Never mind, how can the first-generation experimental model be comfortable? Spreading the dragon skin on the table, Remy took out a small silver knife that was about the same shape as a table knife from his pocket. With a light scratch on the dragon skin with a knife, the tough dragon skin was immediately split into 2 halves. This knife was specially made by his teacher for processing magical materials. At least it was enchanted with sharpness level 8. Oink oink. In less than 2 minutes, Remy cut a large piece of dragon skin into a pile of 2 cm cubes, and then... bang! The table collapsed. Well, it looks like I'll need a dedicated workbench. Pretending to be calm, Remy squatted down and picked up a piece of dragon skin, then sat on the ground and fell into thought. What effect should I attach first? Let's start with the effect of autonomously absorbing magic power. Using alchemy, place the dragon skin on the right side of the scale and infuse magic power on the left side. This was what Remy saw, but from the perspective of Harry and the others, Remy was suspending the small piece of dragon skin in the air. This made them put down their guns and look at Remy curiously. 3 seconds later, everyone looked at the slowly falling dragon skin in confusion. What's going on? Failed. I don't know. It should be a failure, right? While the few people were talking in a low voice, Remy shook his head vigorously, then took out a box and grabbed a handful of sugar-like objects from it and stuffed them into his mouth. Harry and Ronald looked at each other and they recognized that it was Remy's medicine. Neville and Seamus swallowed at the same time. What is Remy eating? It looks delicious. What an alluring scent. Harry hesitated for a moment and did not tell the two what he knew. He felt that such private matters should not be told to others without permission. Over there, Remy, who had eaten a handful of magic crystals, felt the magic power in his body recovering quickly, and continued with alchemy after it was almost recovered. In order to ensure the success rate, Remy had to spend a lot of magic power every time to avoid accidents. This means that he needs to constantly consume magic crystals to replenish his magic power. Fortunately, the effort is always worth it. After a while, Remy completed refining the required dragon skin modules without failure once. This is not the end yet. Remy then picked up a small strand of unicorn tail hair and selected the 3 thickest ones to use as raw materials to continue refining. He wanted to add a magic transmission effect to these unicorn tail hairs. After refining the unicorn tail hair, Remy put it together with the dragon skin module and added some unprocessed dragon skin to ensure that the finished product would not be too small. Remy flashed 3 magic crystals in one breath, replenishing the magic power in his body until it was bubbling out, then took a deep breath and performed the final alchemy. This time, he wanted to integrate them together and make them into a real whole. Watching Remy suspend everything in the air at once, Harry suddenly realized. It looks like everything that has gone before has been successful. Now we have to proceed to the final step, Harry said. What exactly is he going to refine? I only heard him talking about alchemy when we were having dinner just now. What exactly is he going to refine? Neville asked. How should I put it? Remy wants to refine Harry thought for a long time but couldn't figure out how to explain Remy's idea to Neville. At this moment, the dragon skin and unicorn tail hair suspended in the air suddenly flashed a bright but soft golden light. The 4 of them perked up and quickly turned to look at Remy. The golden light slowly dissipated, the dragon skin and unicorn tail hair disappeared, and in their place was a red glove that looked very domineering. The surface of the gloves retains the uneven granular texture of dragon skin, but is brighter red than real dragon skin, as if it had been coated with a layer of brightening oil. It is both refined and retains the wild beauty of the dragon skin itself. Remy himself is quite satisfied with this work, at least he is satisfied with the appearance. That's so cool! Harry exclaimed and walked forward to take a closer look at the gloves, and the other 3 also gathered around. How cool! It would be even cooler if the fingers could be decorated with dragon claws. Ronald said with shining eyes. That's a great glove, but what does it do? Seamus asked. Wait a moment, I'll show you. Remy smiled and put on his gloves. Although he was confident in his work, for safety reasons, Remy asked the 4 people to step back and not watch. This is a glove that can absorb the wearer's magic power and transfer it to other objects. As long as it is used in conjunction with a magic card, it can. Deliberately dragging out the words to keep the audience in suspense, Remy raised his gloved right hand and made a scissors sign, then took out a magic card of illumination and placed it between his index and middle fingers. As the 2 fingers came together to clamp the magic card, a bright light suddenly emerged from the top of the magic card, and then, boom! Chapter 33. With a loud bang, Harry and the other 3 were startled. Remy. I'm fine, cough cough cough, don't worry. Remy coughed and waved his hands to disperse the white smoke around him, choking to the point of tears streaming down his face. That doesn't make sense. I could clearly feel the magic power pouring into the magic card, and the magic card was even activated. How could it explode? Wiping away her tears, Remy muttered to herself that she was puzzled, staring at the half-finished magic card in her hand with a frown. Seeing that Remy was fine, Harry and the others breathed a sigh of relief. Could it be, that too much magic power was injected. Harry thought for a moment and said, I remember you said that if too much magic power is injected, it will cause magic to become blocked. Impossible. The magic power I extracted is not even 100% of what I would get if I used magic cards directly normally. At this point, Remy suddenly got stuck. He suddenly thought of something. With his magic power, it usually takes several percentage points to use magic cards, so how do Hagrid and Hermione use it? Thinking of this, Remy suddenly remembered that when he first used the magic card, it would always explode, and then suddenly one day, he could use the magic card normally. Could it be that the teacher made some improvements to the magic card specifically for me? Now that I was wearing gloves, the magic card didn't recognize me, so it couldn't withstand such a strong magic power. Thinking of this, Remy decided to try the experiment on someone else. Oh, I think what you said makes sense. I do have more magic power. Harry, how about you help me test it? Remy asked. Harry hesitated, but curiosity finally overcame his fear. Okay, how do we test it? Harry asked. You just need to put on the gloves, then hold the magic card and put your fingers together to make a sword gesture. That's it, yes, this is how you can activate the gloves. If you want to stop, just stop making this gesture. After giving Harry an activation gesture, Remy handed the gloves to Harry. After putting on the gloves, Harry first clenched his fists. It feels a bit like a hard rubber glove, a bit big. These can be adjusted slowly later. As he spoke, Remy took out a stack of magic cards and selected them, then took out one and handed it to Harry. Harry took the magic card and took a deep breath, then imitated Remy's previous gesture of making a scissors hand gesture, then put the magic card on and clamped it. As soon as he clamped it, Harry's face suddenly changed and he quickly let go, even though the magic card in his hand had already gushed out a stream of clear water. What's wrong? Are you okay? Remy quickly grabbed Harry's hand and took the magic card away to prevent him from accidentally activating the glove again. Too fast, I can't stand it. Looking at Harry who was breathing heavily and even trembling slightly, Remy froze. What do you mean by this? Fortunately, after taking a breath, Harry gave a more detailed explanation. My magic power is draining away too quickly. I feel like my entire arm is being crawled by 10,000 ants. It's numb and a little painful, said Harry. Remy breathed a sigh of relief and thought to himself, why didn't you explain it clearly right away? I thought you had done something. However, even Harry's magic power couldn't withstand it. It seems that the speed at which this glove absorbs magic is indeed a bit outrageous. I'm sorry, I don't have a very clear concept of magic power. You should take a rest first. Helping Harry sit on the bed, Remy filled a glass of water and placed a magic crystal in it. After thinking for a while, Remy poured half a cup of water into another cup, then filled the original cup with water again to dilute it again. Come, drink some water to replenish your magic power. Remy said. This. Harry hesitated, what you just put in there is not what you use. What are they used for? What I just put there are magic crystals, which are specially used to replenish magic power. Hey? That thing is used to replenish magic power. What do you think? Drink it quickly, in small sips, don't drink too much at once. Harry nodded, took the cup of water, took a sip and his eyes suddenly lit up. Wow! This thing is awesome. It makes me feel like all my fatigue has been swept away. Harry exclaimed. When the people nearby heard this, they all looked towards Remy, their eyes full of anticipation. Please bring your own water cups. This stuff is quite nutritious, so remember not to drink it in one gulp, Remy reminded. The remaining 3 people nodded repeatedly and went to get their own cups. Remy thought about it and simply put 2 magic crystals into the kettle and let them pour the water themselves. After drinking it, the 3 of them also praised it highly. Seeing that everyone had started drinking, the 2 owls in the dormitory looked at each other, and then called out in a coquettish voice at the same time. While flapping their wings, they picked up the water trough in their mouths and knocked on the cage, just short of saying that they wanted to drink too. Are they drinkable? Harry asked uncertainly. It should be possible, right? Why don't you just try and know? Taking the remaining half cup of water, Remy poured it into the sink of the Autumn Johns. Since it is an experiment, of course I have to use my own owl first. This made Hedwig very anxious. She held her water trough in her mouth and kept BG on the cage. Her 2 big eyes looked eagerly at Harry and then at Remy, as if urging Harry to help. This scene immediately made everyone laugh. "Don't worry, I'll give it to you right away." Glancing at Long Johns, who was drinking happily, Remy walked towards Hedwig with the cup of water. Hedwig immediately put down the sink in her mouth steadily, and even lowered her body as if to salute after Remy poured her the water. Look at the elegant Hedwig, and then look at his own idiot who only knows how to drink. It didn't even notice when Remy glared at it. What a disgrace! Be careful or I will roast you one day. The kind without cumin. I just want to ask you if you are afraid. As if sensing some malicious intent, Chu-Ku shuddered, thought for a moment, and then, continued to drink. After giving Kyoko a hard glare, Remy walked over, picked up another piece of dragon skin, and used alchemy to give it the effect of actively absorbing magic power. Ronald, help me test it. Don't worry, I have optimized it. Its extraction speed is now only half of what it was before. Remy said. Ronald was a little scared, but after taking a look at the cup in his hand, he finally agreed to help. As soon as he took it, Ronald was about to ask how to use it, but the next moment he suddenly turned on the vibration mode and shook his hands wildly as if he had been electrocuted. As soon as Remy saw his expression, he realized that the power of this module was too high. Wow, it's so exciting! Ronald said with lingering fear as he collapsed on the ground. Thanks for your hard work. Handing the water to Ronald, Remy looked at the remaining two roommates, which made the two men's anus tighten immediately. Chapter 34. After a series of experiments with 4 roommates, the power was reduced to 0 and then to half, but in the end the power was still a bit high. This made Remy very worried. He himself had no idea about the power of magic, so how could he do such a delicate job? It was very difficult for him to continue adjusting downwards, and he had to spend a lot of time debugging bit by bit. It's impossible to become fat in one bite, but he can squeeze his 4 roommates dry in one go. In order to protect these 4 valuable D-class personnel, adhering to the sustainable strategy of exhausting all resources, Remy announced a break for today. Everyone should eat, drink and rest, and continue the experiment tomorrow when there is time. That night, everyone slept particularly soundly, probably because each of them had a gun at the head of the bed. You have a gun, I have a gun, who is afraid of who? Although all the guns are empty, I feel at ease. The next day, Remy did not sleep in. Instead, he got up early, put his long johns on his shoulders and went out for a falconry walk. Hogwarts Castle was eerily quiet early in the morning, and with the cool breeze blowing all night, the walls in the corridor felt icy to the touch. Facing the stairs that moved back and forth leading to the first floor of the castle, Remy stood there and observed carefully for a long time, carefully analyzing their movement patterns, and finally, jumped. Bang! Remy dodged all the stairs perfectly and fell heavily on the first floor. He got up and patted his clothes calmly. He has a unique and efficient way of going downstairs. Don't just stand there like an idiot, come down quickly. Remy raised his head and said to the dazed Kyoku. This stupid bird didn't even try to save its owner when it saw him falling from the building. It will be cooked in the pot sooner or later. Hearing Remy's shout, Kyoku came to his senses, spread his wings and slowly circled down until he landed on Remy's shoulder again. He kept turning his head to observe Remy from all angles, as if wondering how Remy didn't die from the fall. Pushing open the door of Hogwarts Castle, Remy felt a cool breeze blowing in his face and immediately got goosebumps all over his body. Then the sunshine brought him a touch of warmth. It's great. The air is better in the morning. Stretching his muscles and legs, Remy signaled that the long johns would fly away by themselves, and he jogged along a path that seemed to lead to the Black Lake. Flying is indeed much faster than moving on the ground. In order to wait for Remy, Chu-Ku had to come back every once in a while. It's really like the autumn johns flying southeast, hovering every 50 meters. There are many pine trees around Hogwarts Castle. Remy doesn't know the specific species, but it may be some kind of cedar, because in September they are full of pine cones that look ripe. Remy picked a lot of pine cones, and was even lucky enough to dig out a squirrel's nest, harvesting a large number of pine cones at one time. But Remy didn't take it for nothing. He left 2 boxes of high-calorie sugar cubes for the squirrel as the cost of buying pine cones. At the same time, for the purpose of experimentation, Remy also mixed 2 magic crystals into the sugar cubes. No one knows which lucky mouse will receive this special gift, and no one knows what will happen after it eats it. This unknown made Remy very happy. He likes the unknown, and he likes to gradually turn the unknown into the known. Arriving at the Black Lake, Remy took out a fishing rod from his inner pocket. After getting the lure ready, taking aim and casting the rod, Remy skillfully turned the lure reel and lifted the rod from time to time to give it a strong tug, looking very professional and artful. Kaihoku tilted his head to look at Remy, then flapped his wings and flew towards the center of the lake. After circling 3 times, the crocodile glided across the lake at a very fast speed, stretched out its claws and grabbed hard, and a fish was instantly caught out of the lake. Holding the fish, Kaihoku flew to Remy and landed, placing the fish in front of Remy. This made Remy look a little unhappy. I just started and you caught a fish. What does that mean? Could it be that this fisherman can't even feed a little fishing owl like you? Just kidding. I'm really good at fishing. What's so great about a small fish the size of a palm? Look, I'm going to catch you a big fish that's over a meter long. Remy said as he turned the lure reel to reel in the fishing line, then cast the rod again. This time, he used all his strength to throw the bait as far as possible, vowing to catch a big fish. The autumn trousers beside him seemed to understand what Remy said. It lowered its head and ate the palm-sized fish it had caught in a few bites. Then it flapped its wings again and flew towards the black lake. After a while, when Remy cast the rod for the 5th time, Kaihoku brought back another fish. This fish was much bigger than the previous one, as long as Remy's forearm. Remy was silent for a moment, then shook his head in disdain. Too small, look, I'll catch you a 1.5 meter big fish. Kaihoku tilted his head to look at Remy, then suddenly lowered his head and pecked the caught fish to death. Just when Remy thought Kaihoku was going to eat it, he saw Kaihoku grab the fish and fly to the black lake again. He dropped the fish nearly 100 meters away from the shore and then circled nearby. When Remy cast the 14th rod, Kaihoku dived toward the lake, grabbed a fish that was almost as big as its body and flew into the air. The fish kept swinging its body, and the huge force even caused the long jaws in the air to sway. Fortunately, it was still able to maintain its balance, and finally returned to Remy with its excellent gliding skills. Looking at the fish that Chuku brought back, which was already over half a meter long and heading straight for 1 meter, and then looking at Chuku who was holding his head high as if seeking credit, Remy's face turned pale and he felt like he had been slapped in the face. Well, you did perform very well, but, hey. Remy, who was about to compliment the long johns, was suddenly startled and quickly grabbed the fishing rod. A big shipment of goods, ha 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 ha. Remy was ecstatic and held the fishing rod tightly. He turned the lure wheel as fast as he could to reel in the line, and at the same time lifted the fishing rod with force. It didn't matter if I lifted it up, but with a bang, I saw. Hey? Kaihoku tilted his head and looked at the water, as if he didn't understand why his owner suddenly jumped into the lake. Did he commit suicide out of shame because he couldn't catch any fish? After staring at the lake for 3 seconds, Chuku shook his head vigorously and suddenly realized that his master did not jump into the water by himself. He took off quickly, staring at Remy who was swimming quickly under the water with his big, kiss eyes and following his movements, ready to rush down to help at any time. At this moment, Remy, who was underwater, had excitement written all over his face. Although he was underwater, his body did not touch the water. All the water was blocked by an invisible barrier about 10 centimeters away from his body. Run? If I let you run away, I will never rest in peace. Holding the fishing rod tightly with one hand and both feet, Remy used his other hand to vigorously shake the lure reel to continue reeling in the line. As the lure reel turned, the big fish was getting closer and closer to, no, Remy was getting closer and closer to the big fish. Chapter 35. As the saying goes, if the mountain doesn't move, the water will move, if the water doesn't move, people will move. If the mountain doesn't come to me, I will go to the mountain. Fishing is like a love relationship which is not a two-way street. If the other person doesn't come towards me, can't I still run towards him? As long as you have perseverance and persistence, a mace can be sharpened into an embroidery needle. It's impossible to cut the line. Not in this lifetime. My fishing line can even catch a whale. Shake. I shake it hard. Shake it until Grandma sees me and says it's wonderful. Remy shook the lure wheel vigorously and continuously, gradually closing the distance between himself and the prey. But underwater was not his home ground. Before he could get close enough to see the prey clearly, the prey had already dragged him to the deep, dark bottom of the lake. But Remy did not give up. He continued to reel in the lure in the darkness. After an unknown amount of time, Remy suddenly felt something was wrong. A turbulent current of water suddenly hit Remy, and then he felt as if he was thrown into a toilet and spun rapidly, making him dizzy and disoriented. On the water surface, when Remy could no longer be seen, Kaihoku circled anxiously and kept chirping. Its cry attracted many owls, which hooted for a while, and then a group of owls flew towards the interior of Hogwarts Castle. After entering the castle, the owls split into two groups. One group went to Vice Principal McGonagall's office, and the other group went all the way up to the principal's office. Two groups of owls held a concert in front of the doors of the two offices, and used the noisy noise to call out the owners of the two offices, who then rushed to report to the two men one after another. However, both Headmaster Dumbledore and Vice Headmaster McGonagall said they could not understand what they were saying. In desperation, Chu-Ku, who had followed his compatriots to find Dumbledore, stretched out his claws to grab Dumbledore's robe and flapped his wings vigorously, as if he wanted to take Dumbledore away directly. Wait, I think I understand. You said you want to take me somewhere, right? And there is some emergency there that needs my urgent attention? Dumbledore asked. A group of owls nodded quickly and chirped continuously. Okay, be quiet. You lead the way and I'll go with you. Dumbledore said. Walking forward with Dumbledore, Kaihoku felt a little anxious at Dumbledore's speed. He stretched out his claws to Dumbledore again and barked a few more times. After a moment's hesitation, the other owls rushed forward, stretched out their claws to grab Dumbledore's robes, and worked together to pull Dumbledore off the ground. Dumbledore sighed in frustration, but this time he didn't stop him. As the owl carried him out of the castle through the window, Dumbledore suddenly felt happy. Not far away, Professor McGonagall was also being held by the owls and flying in the air with a helpless look on his face. Minerva, where is your beloved broom? Are you reluctant to use it? Dumbledore joked. Professor McGonagall sighed helplessly, they are too anxious. What happened? I'm not sure, but... Dumbledore glanced at the Long Johns, maybe something happened to Remy. This owl seems to be his. It's really big. Hiss, its claws are very powerful. Professor McGonagall. Is this what we should focus on now? Shouldn't the point be that something might happen to a Hogwarts student? At the same time, Remy Underwater finally got rid of the double debuffs of dizziness and confusion and managed to sit up. Etc. Sit up? Remy sat cross-legged on the ground with one hand on his chin and thought for 2 seconds, then took out a flashlight from his inner pocket. As the switch was turned on, Remy nodded with satisfaction as he looked at the wet and sticky unknown liquid everywhere. Sure enough, just as I guessed, I was swallowed. Remy was very happy to have successfully verified his guess, and then he jumped up and down in the belly of this unknown creature. You are so brave. How dare you swallow me? Don't you have any idea who is the hunter and who is the prey? Who gave you the courage to think you were a hunter? You are not courting death. I think you are clearly seeking death. While cursing, Remy took out a bunch of cute little round things and a ball of sewing thread from his pocket. After tying up the chubby little cuties one by one with string, Remy shone the flashlight around and found that he was not in the stomach filled with a large amount of corrosive liquid. So Remy took out a bottle and 2 magic cards. Using the transfiguration magic card, Remy transformed the bottle into a large glass barrel, and then used another spring spell magic card to fill it with water. Remy then took out another bottle. This time, Remy moved carefully. Carefully open the bottle with the word sulfuric acid on the label and carefully pour the liquid inside into the bucket. Although the bottle is small, the liquid inside seems to be inexhaustible and it has not reached the bottom even after pouring for a long time. Well, that should be about right. Putting away the bottles, Remy picked up a bunch of little cuties and put them all into the bucket. The little cuties tied up with ropes were immediately freed as they entered the sulfuric acid solution. They had been tied up with ropes and opened their arms one after another, counting down the seconds to give light and warmth to the world. At the same time, Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall landed safely on the shore of Black Lake. Looking at the traces of people walking on the ground and an obvious sliding mark, Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall frowned. Did Remy fall into the water accidentally? I'll contact the fishmen and ask them to help find him. Professor McGonagall said. Dumbledore nodded, his brow still furrowed. If you fall into the water, does that count as being in danger? If it counts, and the magic treasure's automatic protection of its owner is triggered, will there be any misunderstanding if the fishman is asked to go looking for it? But what if Remy really drowned in Hogwarts? Just as Dumbledore was struggling with his dilemma, suddenly, there was a loud noise that scared both of them and a group of owls. Boom! Headmaster Dumbledore subconsciously turned sideways to block Professor McGonagall behind him and drew his wand towards the source of the sound. At the same time, Professor McGonagall also drew his wand. As the two men stared in shock, they saw a huge column of water rising into the sky, at least 10 meters high. At the same time, accompanied by a loud laughter that sounded extremely rampant, a black shadow drew a parabola in the air and flew towards them. It was a man, someone they all knew. "Hey? Principal Dumbledore. Great. Give me a slowing spell, thank you." Dumbledore's mouth twitched, and he silently put away his wand, while using his other hand to press down Professor McGonagall's raised wand. 2 seconds later. Bang! Chapter 36. Remy dove into the soft mud by the lake, and before he could pull himself out, he immediately raised a finger to express his most sincere gratitude to Dumbledore. Dumbledore's expression looked very unhappy, not because of Remy's current behavior, but because the huge explosion just now had attracted the attention of many students in the castle. "Remy, I think you need to give me an explanation. What happened to the explosion just now? Do you have any weapons from the Muggle world on you?" Dumbledore asked Remy, who was pulled out by his long johns. Professor McGonagall's face turned serious when he heard Dumbledore mention the weapons in the Muggle world and saw that Remy was not injured. "Impossible. Am I the kind of person who hides things secretly? I definitely don't hide Muggle weapons." Remy wiped his face and said righteously. "By the way, I added in my heart, I always carry it openly." "Yet." Dumbledore glanced at Remy, then turned and gestured to Professor McGonagall. "Wingardium Leviosa." Professor McGonagall waved his wand, and Remy immediately flew out of the water, floated in the air and slowly moved in front of Headmaster Dumbledore. "Thanks, but why didn't you just, Remy, who felt himself being flipped upside down, suddenly felt something was wrong. No, what do you want?" Ouch, don't shake, I feel dizzy." Scream, screech, screech. As if a shaking money tree could shake out money, as Dumbledore grabbed Remy and shook him around, a bunch of messy things fell out of Remy's pockets and piled up into a small mountain in the blink of an eye. There were bottles, cases, boxes, and all sorts of random things that Dumbledore couldn't recognize. Stop shaking. My brains are about to be shaken." Snap! As a glass bottle fell on the corner of a metal box and shattered, a large amount of colorless and transparent liquid gushed out. The splashing liquid instantly corroded a large hole in the hem of Dumbledore's robe. Dumbledore was shocked and quickly pulled Remy away. "What is this?" Dumbledore asked as he dragged Remy back. What? Ding! A crisp voice came from the pile of debris. Remy was stunned at first, and then his face changed drastically. This sound, could it be that the string on the grenade that I just loaded up and didn't use yet broke? Then my boxes. Quick! Protective spell. Use a protective spell to cover that pile of things. Quick! Hearing Remy's scream, Dumbledore reacted quickly, took out his wand and cast a silent protective spell. Professor McGonagall next to him also realized that the situation had changed, and he also used his real skills to silently and instantly cast a protective spell. "What's going on? Now you can." Boom! Blocked by the protective spell, the huge explosion instantly shattered the ground. This is not the end. After a big pit was blown out, explosions occurred one after another in various places in the pit. Some were big, some were small. The only thing they had in common was that they were all continuing to expand the pit. Dumbledore's pupils shrank suddenly, and he quickly used the speed of his god's hand that had enabled him to be single all his life to cast 5 protective spells in succession in an instant, protecting a large area of the nearby ground. The rumbling sound continued, and Remy felt a chill in his heart. "It's over, Barbecue is in big trouble now. Moreover, my family assets were also destroyed." Remy, who had already fallen to the ground, looked at the surging lake water and silently shed sad tears. Dumbledore waited for a while until there were no more explosions before putting away his wand, looking at the huge pit in front of him with a grim face. Not to mention Professor McGonagall, the bottom of the century-old pot is whiter, rosier, and more lustrous than her current complexion. In the castle in the distance, many students were attracted by the explosion and crowded around the windows to watch curiously. Some even brought out the astronomical telescopes used in astrology class. Suddenly, Remy's face changed and he rushed towards the huge hole created by the explosion, wailing. "Magic crystal! My magic crystal! I saved up this magic crystal with great difficulty by living frugally. Falling beside the pit, Remy scooped up the lake water, his hands shaking. This is not water at all, it is clearly magic crystal solution. It's really a failure. Looking at the distraught Remy, and then at the lake water whose magical aura was becoming increasingly strong, Dumbledore frowned even more tightly. He could feel that this pit was not the place with the strongest magical aura. The place with the strongest magical aura was in the real Black Lake. There should be more magic crystals that were blown away by the explosion just now. Forget it. There's no good way to recycle it all now. Besides, the Black Lake is big enough so it should be able to be diluted. Let's first deal with the problem of Remy, the source of the unrest. Thinking of this, Dumbledore breathed a sigh of relief and told Professor McGonagall to arrange for someone to keep a close eye on the Black Lake and report to him immediately if anything unusual was found. Then, Dumbledore grabbed Remy's shoulders and the two of them disappeared in an instant, only to reappear in the headmaster's office. This incident has become such a big deal that many people have noticed it. The school directors must have informed the Ministry of Magic. I am also responsible for this matter. It was my fault that I did not confiscate all the dangerous items from you in advance. It was also because of my misapprehension that they exploded. I will take my responsibility when the trial comes. At this point, Dumbledore couldn't help but sigh, deeply regretting why he was so reckless just now. If he had been more careful, wouldn't this have happened? But you also have a lot of responsibility. I will write to your teacher now and ask him to come to Ying Country. With him coming forward and you being a minor, the Ministry of Magic will not put you in Azkaban. You can rest assured. Where was he imprisoned? Azkaban? Remy, who was originally in a daze, suddenly raised his head, and his eyes were brighter than ever. No, you don't have to write to my teacher, and you don't have to take the blame for me. Remy waved his hand with a heroic look. Everyone has his own share of responsibility. I was the one who blew up the Black Lake. I am the main culprit, the principal offender, the accomplice, and the peripheral member. Dumbledore. I really regret listening to you and using a protective spell to suppress the explosion. I should have thrown you in directly. Even if I couldn't kill you, it would have been great to blow you out of the jurisdiction of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. You, Albus. Tired. Really want to retire. Dumbledore sighed heavily. Preaching? If preaching is useful, what is the point of having prisons? But the problem is that it seems like prisons are no longer effective. I can't understand. What attracts you about Azkaban? Dementors? Why are you interested in creatures that everyone avoids? Dumbledore asked in a muffled voice. There's a saying, I don't know if you've heard of it before. What? Everything can be feminized. Chapter 37. Everything can be feminized? Dementors, feminized? Dumbledore thought about it for a moment, then shuddered. The picture is so beautiful. The beauty is unbearable to look at. Remy glanced at Dumbledore with disdain. Just by looking at his reaction, Remy knew that he definitely didn't get the meaning of what he said. Ever since I learned about the appearance of Dementors, I have always thought that a Dementor in black veil and a zombie bride in white veil are a perfect match made in heaven. So I've always wanted to catch a Dementor, cut it up, and study it, in an effort to create a zombie bride. Zombie? Bride? A couple with Dementors? Dumbledore immediately showed the same expression of old people, subway, and mobile phone. No matter how he tried to convince himself, he couldn't connect these three concepts together. You, forget it, do whatever you want. If you are really imprisoned in Azkaban, I won't have to worry about it anymore. Sighing, Dumbledore walked to his desk, took out a pen and paper and began to write a letter. Although he said he didn't care about Remy, Dumbledore was still prepared to do what he had to do. As for what happened later, let Nicholas Flamel worry about it. He wanted to save some brain cells and live a few more years. On the wall, portraits of past principals looked at Remy curiously, and some even ran into the same frame and whispered to each other about something. Remy ignored them. It was just a moving portrait. He had seen it so many times in Nicholas Flamel's house that it no longer seemed new to him. Instead, it was the phoenix on the shelf next to the desk that attracted Remy's attention more. The phoenix was not originally called Phoenix. Its name is transliterated as Phoenix, and its official translation is Phoenix. In fact, the phoenix and the phoenix are two completely different creatures. The authentic phoenix is the king of birds and an auspicious animal. It does not have the ability to be reborn from the ashes like the phoenix. Even the term rebirth from the ashes was coined by a literati in modern times, and it first appeared in his poem Phoenix Nirvana. At the same time, the title of this poem is also the first word that combines phoenix and nirvana. The reason why he portrayed the phoenix as the image of the phoenix is because he believed that the western phoenix was the eastern phoenix. However, in fact, apart from having extremely high status in mythology, the abilities of these two creatures are not even remotely related, if not terribly different. It just so happens that he has a very high status in the literary world, so when he says something, others will believe it. It can be said that he has single-handedly distorted the image of the phoenix, and his contribution is truly invaluable. Let's not talk about the past anymore. What attracted Remy at this moment was not the story behind the name of the phoenix's species, but itself. I heard that the phoenix will never die and can be reborn from the ashes. Is that true? Remy asked. Yes, Dumbledore said without looking up. Can I give it a shot? No, can I strangle it to death and see how it achieves nirvana? Hey? The phoenix was stunned for a moment, then quickly flapped its wings and flew away from Remy. Dumbledore, who was writing a letter, looked up speechlessly and said, "Can you use your curiosity to study? Even if it means going to the library to study the eternal puzzle of the origin of wizards." Oh no? Remy raised an eyebrow. How did you know I was interested in the origins of wizards? Did you spy on me? Headmaster Dumbledore was stunned for a moment, with a look of astonishment on his face, as if saying, "Are you really interested in this?" "I'm not spying on you." Dumbledore smiled bitterly and shook his head, "But if you are really interested in this, I suggest you change your hobby. It's a confusing matter, and many people don't want to get the answer. What do they want or not? It's none of my business." Remy curled her lips in disdain. "I also hope that all the beauties in the world will fall madly in love with me. Is it useful? Dumbledore. Are you a little too precocious? Why are all the examples I give casually of this style? Is this the way a child your age should think?" Dumbledore lowered his head in silence and continued writing. After writing the letter and putting it away, Dumbledore called out to Fawkes, then handed the letter to his phoenix named Fawkes and asked it to deliver the letter to Nicholas Flamel. Remy was envious when he saw it. "Your Highness, Headmaster Dumbledore." Dumbledore's heart tightened when he heard Remy's words so politely, and he didn't even know why he had this reaction. "What is it?" Dumbledore asked. "Send me a phoenix, and I promise to take good care of it." "No. No way. Impossible. Remy. Are you so sure? I'm not going to use it to make a roast chicken." "Can phoenix be used to make a roast chicken? If using an open flame can lead to the phoenix rising from the ashes, then, what about a microwave?" Remy accidentally overthought again and quickly shook his head to calm his divergent thoughts. "Okay, but I heard from the teacher that you know the Pokémon Master, the master of magical creatures, Mr. Newt Scamander, and that you have a good relationship with him. Is that true?" Remy asked. Headmaster Dumbledore hesitated for a moment before nodding. "That's right. Do you have anything to do with him?" Remy nodded quickly. Yes, can you ask him to help me get a Thunderbird from Magnesium?" "Dumbledore. I thought you wanted to ask him about magical creatures, or even learn how to raise a phoenix." "Okay, it seems I was overthinking it." "Well." With a heavy sigh, Headmaster Dumbledore shook his head, then leaned back in his chair, holding his chest. How he wished at this moment that he was a Muggle, so that he could take quick-acting heart pills to relieve his heartache, but he was not a Muggle, and this was not a Muggle world, so there were no quick-acting heart pills. "The winged demon will do. If that doesn't work, the wicked bird will do. I don't mind the poison leopard either, and there's also..." "No. None of that." Dumbledore was so angry. "If it were a docile creature, I might help you for Nicholas Flamel's sake, and it would be worth it as long as you could just leave it alone, but what do you want? Each one is more dangerous than the other. If you were really allowed to raise these creatures, Hogwarts would probably be in chaos. If you don't want to give it to me, then don't give it to me. Why are you so angry? Don't lose your temper easily when you are old. It's not good for your health." Remy said earnestly. "Don't be angry. Life is like a play, we are together because of fate. It's not easy to support each other until old age, shouldn't we cherish it more? Get angry over trivial matters, think about it and it's not necessary. I don't get angry when others get angry, but if I get angry and get sick, no one can replace me. Who would be happy if I get angry to death, and it's exhausting and tiring. Don't compare with neighbors and relatives, let children and grandchildren take care of trivial matters. Share hardships and joys together, even gods envy good partners. After hearing what Remy said, Dumbledore felt his blood pressure rising, at least 3 or 4 floors higher. Chapter 38. If it weren't for Nicholas Flamel, if Nicholas Flamel was not helping me with an important project, if you were not still a child, I will definitely let you see how elegant I was when I was young. He took 3 deep breaths to calm his blood pressure. Just then, Professor McGonagall came to the office with 3 people. The leader was a fat little guy. Even with a stern face, his face looked greasy and he was obviously a veteran. The 2 people behind him had serious faces and looked difficult to get along with. Dumbledore, what happened? I received a report that Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry suffered a terrorist attack. Who did it? Could it be Death Eaters? Asked the fat man in the lead. Remy snorted coldly, took a step forward and puffed out his chest. What Death Eaters? I did it. The fat boy was stunned for a moment, then looked at Dumbledore. Dumbledore sighed, Minister Fudge, this is what happened. Dumbledore told Fudge everything he knew, and after hesitating for a moment at the end, he did not emphasize his responsibility. Put him in Azkaban right now. Stop making me angry. Voldemort gives me less trouble than him. Remy on the side was a little surprised, because Dumbledore just talked about the Long Johns. Remy didn't expect that the silly bird was so loyal and smart, and even knew to come to Dumbledore to save him. I've decided. I must bake it well later, ahem, to reward it. Is that so? Minister Fudge looked at Remy with some embarrassment. Little boys, Muggleborns, people with special quirks, this couldn't be more correct. How can he catch people? Seeing that Minister Fudge was slow to give orders, Remy became impatient. Hurry up, what are you standing here for? Why are you looking at Principal Dumbledore? Who is the Minister of Magic? The old ladies at Centenary Mountain are more decisive than you. Or are you from Brokeback Mountain? Remy sneered. Fudge's face suddenly turned dark. He wanted to ask Dumbledore again, but it was not a good idea to go and see Dumbledore at this moment. Okay, Minister Fudge, let's follow the rules. Dumbledore waved his hand tiredly and walked out first. Fudge nodded, raised his hand and waved gently. 2 members of the Ministry of Magic who were suspected to be Aurors walked up to Remy and each of them held Remy's shoulders with one hand. Don't grab my shoulders. I hate it when people press my shoulders. It makes me feel like a prisoner. Oh, sorry, I forgot that I am a prisoner now. Go on, go on. Everyone. You are really self-aware. As Remy was escorted out of the headmaster's office and on the way out of Hogwarts Castle, there were curious little wizards everywhere along the way. As a prisoner being watched, Remy felt that he should act more ashamed, but he tried hard and found that his performance level was a bit poor. So, Remy held his head high and chest puffed out like a winner about to step onto the podium, striding forward with high spirits and confidence. As they walked, Remy's eyes suddenly lit up. He saw his dear D-class roommates. Harry, I still have 2 boxes of magic crystals in my suitcase. Please take care of my autumn johns for me. Remy shouted. Ah? Oh, okay, I will take good care of it for you, said Harry. Remy tilted his head, feeling that what Harry said was a little strange. Fortunately, I didn't ask you to take care of Hermione, otherwise it would have sounded even weirder. Remy thought so and saw Hermione the next second. Surprised, stunned, confused, and full of worry, Remy smiled slightly when meeting Hermione's complicated gaze. Don't worry, I'm just going out to play for a few days. You should study hard during this time and wait for me to come back. Remy raised his hand and blew Hermione a kiss. Remy thought Hermione would run away shyly, but he could still see Hermione until he was pushed out of the gate of Hogwarts Castle. After leaving Hogwarts Castle, Professor McGonagall, who had been following them, clapped his hands and closed the door, and at the same time closed the curiosity of the little wizards. No, how are you going to escort me to Azkaban? In a prison van? Remy asked curiously. No, we will send you to the Wizengamot for trial. If the trial finds you guilty, we will put you in Azkaban. Just after he finished explaining, Minister Fudge suddenly felt something was wrong. What do you mean by I'll put you in Azkaban? How come saying it doesn't have any deterrent effect? Thinking of this, Minister Fudge hastily added, I know that little wizards like you are curious about everything and will also question those rumors. But I can assure you that once you go to Azkaban, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Remy blinked, then looked at Dumbledore and pointed at Minister Fudge. Principal Dumbledore, this man threatened and intimidated me, I will sue him. Dumbledore. Fudge. Are you looking a little scared now? When he came to his senses, Fudge no longer wanted to talk to Remy, not even a word. Principal Dumbledore, I'll see you at the Ministry of Magic. As he spoke, Minister Fudge signaled the two Aurors to let go, then reached out and placed his hand on Remy's shoulder, preparing to use the apparition to apparate Remy to the Ministry of Magic. Unexpectedly, just as he put his hand on Remy's shoulder, Remy suddenly screamed, and he quickly let go of his hand in fright. It's indecent. Bang! Dumbledore covered his forehead helplessly, and after a long while he sighed heavily. Minister Fudge, although it is a bit against the rules, I will still take him there, said Dumbledore. Minister Fudge thought for a moment with a dark face and shook his head, let's just follow the rules. With that, Minister Fudge pressed down on Remy's shoulder again. This time, Remy didn't scream, but... Minister Fudge, seriously, I really want to sue you, but I don't know where to sue the Minister of Magic. Remy asked. The Wizengamot. Is this true? That would be perfect, vomit. Minister Fudge felt relieved at once when he saw Remy suddenly falling to the ground and retching. Don't worry, the first experience of using apparition to move long distances is always unpleasant, especially for a young wizard like you will get better after experiencing it a few more times. Minister Fudge said meaningfully. Minister Fudge's comfort did not have any effect. Not only did Remy not get better, but his body began to tremble, and the trembling became more and more severe. Minister Fudge's heart tightened when he realized something was wrong, and he quickly squatted down and hugged Remy. What's wrong with you? Is it? Go. Quickly, go, evacuate everyone. My magic is disrupted. Dumbledore who just arrived. Chapter 39. There are two kinds of magic in Remy's body, one is his own and the other is Mabeo's. Normally, Remy can mobilize the magic power of the magic treasure at will for his own use, as if he were controlling it with his own arms. But after experiencing what was probably a lousy apparition, some unexpected changes occurred in the magic in Remy's body. Minister Fudge was stunned by the terrifyingly powerful magic of Remy, and only came to his senses when he was pushed aside by Dumbledore. Fudge, his magic is so strong that even I am not sure I can suppress it. Go and notify everyone to evacuate. Dumbledore said in a deep voice. Ah. Okay. Minister Fudge nodded vigorously. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, he directed his men to notify people nearby to evacuate while regretting it deeply in his heart. Why didn't you agree to let Dumbledore bring the child to the Ministry of Magic? If something went wrong, the main responsibility would be on Dumbledore. Now, the responsibility is all on you. I regret what I did. Next to Remy, Dumbledore, with a serious expression, cast a series of protective spells around Remy, and after learning from his mistakes, he also cast protective spells on the floor. After a while, a team of elite Aurors, led by a lame Mad-Eye, apparat to Dumbledore's side. After seeing the situation clearly, they hurriedly cooperated with Dumbledore to cast protective magic around Remy. There is no need to say or ask. Anyone who is not blind can see the terrifying and almost tangible magical power emanating from Remy, and anyone who is not a fool knows what to do at this moment. The magic in Remy's body was becoming stronger and more violent. The Aurors and Dumbledore raced against time to cast protective spells to increase the protection as much as possible. Just as an Auror stumbled to the ground due to exhaustion, suddenly, a dazzling bright blue light emanated from Remy. The terrifying magical impact instantly tore apart all the defenses around Remy. Hundreds of protective magic cast by the Aurors couldn't even slow down its forward speed. Only the protective magic cast by Dumbledore could resist it a little. Seeing that they couldn't hold out for much longer, Dumbledore took a deep breath, stepped forward, and then waved his wand vigorously. A beam of white light came out of his wand and enveloped a small area around Remy. White light continued to emanate from Dumbledore's wand, struggling against the turmoil of magical power that enveloped him. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Dumbledore's forehead was sweating madly, and the hand holding the wand was shaking the whole time. Don't cast the protective spell yourself. Our protective spell is useless. Let's all work together to strengthen Dumbledore's protective spell. Mad-Eye yelled, then took the lead in waving his wand. The aurors behind also mobilized their remaining magical power to help. 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds. Seeing the range of the blue light shrinking little by little, and even Remy in the middle could be seen gradually, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Just when everyone thought victory was in sight, suddenly, the blue light transformed into a deeper purple light. Not good. Snap. In just a moment, the sudden surge of purple light broke through the restraints. Dumbledore's eyes were about to burst. How dare you pretend to be a pig and eat the tiger to launch a sneak attack? You have no martial ethics. You are really too babyish. He only had time to cast a protective spell around him to protect the people around him, and the next moment Dumbledore and all the aurors were instantly enveloped by a vast ocean of purple. Boom! Whoosh! Dang! Mad Eye appeared on the floor with Dumbledore on his shoulders and bent down to let Dumbledore, whose magic power was exhausted, sit down. Then he picked up the wand on the ground and put it back into Dumbledore's still trembling hand. Sniff, 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 sniff. Figures appeared around them, and everyone fell silent as they looked at the huge pit in front of them. Standing up and looking around at everyone, the lame man breathed a sigh of relief. Thanks to Dumbledore for protecting them just now, everyone is safe and there are no casualties. Fortunately, everyone else has evacuated, but what exactly happened? Professor Dumbledore? Mad Eye asked. It should be the first time he used apparition, and it disrupted the magic power in his body. Dumbledore struggled to stand up after catching his breath. Mad Eye saw him and hurriedly supported him. They walked to the edge together and looked at Remy at the bottom of the pit. Remy has a magical creature in his body that is more special and more terrifying than the Obscurus. He has always had two kinds of magic in his body. Just as they used their profound knowledge to speculate the cause of the incident, before everyone could express their surprise, several figures appeared beside them. Oh, thank God you're all okay. Under my command, everyone evacuated in time. There were no casualties, not even pets. And it didn't have much impact on the Muggle world above. At most, tomorrow's newspaper headlines will report a sudden but not serious earthquake. Are you listening to me? Dumbledore, what are you looking at? Minister Fudge, who was talking incessantly, suddenly froze when he saw Remy at the bottom of the pit. Are you still alive? This is really great. Someone capture the terrorist who attacked the Ministry of Magic below. Send him to Azkaban immediately. With that, Minister Fudge turned to look at Dumbledore. Principal Dumbledore, this matter is of great importance. Please provide detailed information about this person, including his family members and detailed address. The Ministry of Magic must conduct the most stringent investigation on him. Well. Dumbledore sighed, looking at Fudge with undisguised disappointment in his eyes. This guy must be thinking about how to pass the buck, at least he's thinking about how to put the main responsibility on Remy. But Dumbledore glanced at Remy at the bottom of the pit again. At this moment, Remy was not without any magic in his body. On the contrary, the magic power in his body was still amazing. I think even if I was imprisoned in Azkaban, it wouldn't be too dangerous, at most I would suffer a little. Thinking of this, Dumbledore nodded to Minister Fudge and said, I will give you the information later. Now, I need to rest. Okay, thank you for your cooperation, Headmaster Dumbledore. Go and arrange a lounge for Dumbledore that can still be used. No, I'll just take Professor Dumbledore. Mad Eye glanced at Fudge and helped Dumbledore away from this troubled place. After watching the two figures disappear completely, Minister Fudge used all his power to direct everyone to clean up the scene and repair as much as possible with the repair spell. When they heard Fudge's request to clean and repair the giant pit from top to bottom, everyone cursed in their hearts, what a pity. Chapter 40. Iron doors, iron windows, iron chains holding onto the iron window. I looked outside. What a wonderful life outside. When will I return to my home? When will you return to my... Bang! Remy, who was howling like a ghost, suddenly stopped howling and turned around to slap the Dementor next to him. Where are you running to? You want to escape from prison without a fight in 3 minutes? Are you getting carried away? Remy asked with his eyes wide open. The Dementor looked down at his feet in grievance. It was indeed floating, but this was not something it could control. It was born to float. Floating back to the corner silently, the Dementor felt regretful in his heart. A day ago, it was working as usual, diligently patrolling Azkaban prison with its colleagues. When it discovered a new arrival with a tempting aroma of food that had never been seen before, it was lucky enough to be the first to enter the cell and the first to enjoy the food. It flew over the food, lifted its veil, and prepared to give him a long and lasting French kiss. However, after sucking for a long time, it could not suck out a trace of sweetness, and instead woke the food up. Then, the nightmare began. The awakened food did not choose to run away. Instead, it pinned the 12-foot-tall cat to the ground with great ferocity, rode on it and delivered a series of punches to its head. While beating it, he was cursing, saying things like, "Hey, I jumped, don't you know you have severe bad breath, how dare you get close to this handsome guy when you are so ugly," and other words that the dog couldn't understand, which caused great harm to its body and mind. But its unethical colleague locked the prison door to prevent the food from escaping. God knows how it got through the whole day. It swore that if it was allowed to go out, it would throw the colleague who locked the door in and lock him up together with the food. "Hey, who allowed you to go there facing the wall? Come here," Remy said. The Dementor hesitated for a moment, then slowly floated towards Remy. Before it reached Remy, Remy kicked it back. "Do you understand that I must follow orders? Do it again. Come here," Remy said sternly. This time, the Dementors learned their lesson and came very quickly. "Get down." "Well, that's right," patting the Dementor's head, which was now shorter than him, with satisfaction, Remy walked around the Dementor and looked at it carefully. This Dementor is scary, and it does look quite frightening. Its overall shape is similar to the first time Dementors appeared in Remy's memory, just like a little girl who is just about to get married, shyly covering her whole body, and wearing a headscarf that covers her entire face, but it's all black. Unlike after the rebellion, they dressed as revealingly as possible and had no sense of shame at all. The Dementor was tall and thin, and under his black robe he was not just skin and bones, but just some rotten flesh on his bones, which looked disgusting. Fortunately, there was no rotten smell on it, otherwise Remy would definitely kick it out and make it roll as far away as possible. Apart from the scary appearance, Remy didn't have much impression of the Dementor's abilities. He just felt that Dementors were too one-trick pony. After the Dementor's kiss failed to work on him, this guy couldn't even make a move. It would be fine if it had no fighting ability at all, but this guy was incredibly strong. After Remy used the 7 days lock of love stronger than gold, it was still able to carry Remy around. If another Dementor hadn't closed the door in time, Remy might have been carried away by it and flew away to who knows where. Such a big guy with great strength and the ability to fly was now being beaten by a kid like him. It's the best poached chicken among spicy chicken. Originally, Remy still had illusions about the strength of the Dementors and wanted to raise one for fun. Now that he has seen the true strength level of the Dementors, or the true intelligence level, Remy only wants to say to the Dementors, "Sons, Dad is very disappointed in you. Tell me about you, you are so ugly and have such a great reputation, why are you so useless?" While criticizing the Dementors, Remy lifted the Dementor's veil and then froze. There was no face under the veil, at least no facial features. There was only a faint outline where one could vaguely discern the positions of the facial features. It was as pale as a mannequin used in an unfinished clothing store. There was a hole where the mouth should have been, and no teeth. Looking at the hole, Remy suddenly had a bold idea. Ahem, no, it was a question: why can this mouth absorb people's emotions, and only absorb positive emotions? What is the principle? "Open your mouth wider so I can study it better," Remy said. After waiting for a while and seeing no response, Remy raised his hand to hit the Dementor, which was so scared that it quickly dodged and used its skinny big hand, which was twice as big as Remy's head, to open its mouth, and then waved its hands, as if to say, "My mouth can only open so wide." "It can really only open this wide?" Remy asked, still unconvinced. The Dementor nodded hastily and vigorously. "I don't believe it." With a sneer, Remy reached out to pry open the Dementor's mouth without caring whether it was clean or not. However, no matter how hard Remy tried, he was unable to open the Dementor's mouth even a millimeter larger. "Okay, I believe it." Remy sighed and picked up the Dementor's robe to wipe his hands. You know what, although the Dementor looks sloppy, its robe is very clean and of good texture. Seeing that Remy finally believed and gave up torturing himself, the Dementor breathed a sigh of relief, and the strong sense of humiliation made it lower its head involuntarily. It is the #1 evil creature in the wizarding world, the Dementor, whose Dementor's kiss makes countless people shudder, and it is easy for it to stop a child from crying. But today, someone actually forced its mouth open. And when its mouth was pried open, it didn't even have the courage to take advantage of the opportunity to use the Dementor's kiss. "It's so, sniff, what is this?" It smells so good. The Dementor raised its head suddenly and inhaled madly at the magic crystal that Remy had just created in his hand. If Remy hadn't known and confirmed that Dementors were blind, he would have doubted whether it was staring at him at this moment. Are you interested in this thing? Want to eat it? Remy asked. Yeah. The Dementor nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. It's not impossible to give it to you, but you can't get it for free, right? Remy grinned and reached out to pat the soul monster on the head. How about this, if you let me out, I will give you the magic crystal. The Dementor was obviously stunned for a moment, then lowered his head and never raised it again, as if to silently express his refusal. No? I didn't realize you were so dedicated to your duties. Remy casually threw a magic crystal in front of the Dementor, walked to the corner and sat down, watching quietly as the Dementor impatiently pinched the magic crystal with his incredibly long fingers and swallowed it in one gulp. I'm giving you two choices now. One is to leave here, I won't stop you. The other is to work for me, I have plenty of magic crystals. And you don't need to violate your professional ethics. Remy said with a smile. The Dementor floated up and looked at the cell door, then turned around and looked at Remy, and finally, floated in front of Remy and squatted down. Although it is humiliating to follow Remy, but the magic crystal is so fragrant. Chapter 41. Click. As the cell door opened, a Dementor floated out of the cell and closed the door in an extremely fast time. Feeling that Remy had not moved, the Dementor breathed a sigh of relief and then floated forward along the passage. When passing by the third cell, the person inside suddenly roared for some reason. The Dementor, who had just come out of Remy's cell, suddenly turned black in face, opened the cell door angrily, went in and started sucking the person hard. If you can't afford to offend that little devil, can't I punish you? Snort. The door slammed shut and the Dementor continued to move forward. After a while, the author didn't know how Dementors communicated with each other, but it successfully found its compatriots and persuaded one of them to have dinner with it. It brought its compatriots to the cell where Remy was imprisoned, opened the door and invited its compatriots to enjoy it first. When its compatriot rushed into the cell and pounced on Remy in the corner, it was not in a hurry but its hands were still quick to close and lock the cell door. After a while, there were sounds of Aude, coming from the cell, as well as endless curses that only the Dementors could hear. About 10 minutes later, it reached out and knocked on the cell door. After attracting Remy's attention, it pointed at its mouth through the window and tried to make a cube with its stiff, slender fingers. Don't worry, I'm a person who values honesty the most. Remy released his grip on the Dementor's neck and rubbed it against his body before walking over to the cell door. One magic crystal for each Dementor. Here you go. Handing the magic crystal to the Dementor, Remy thought for a moment and handed it another handful of magic crystals, and patted its head. I now officially confers upon you, well, I now officially bestow upon you a name, Soul Bullet, and confers upon you the title of Commander of the Soul Bullet Corps. Work hard and I will not treat you unfairly. Until Remy retracted his hand and turned around to continue educating the Dementors inside, the Dementors outside the door remained standing there in a daze. He gave me a name, called Soul Bullet? Do I have a name? After more than 400 years since it was created in the 15th century, I finally have my own name? What's going on with this feeling? Are you excited? Or is it the legendary, happy? Am I not the most evil creature who is like a walking corpse, with only a desire that resembles excitement when it comes to negative emotions, but in fact I have no emotions or even a soul? Why do I have this kind of emotion? It seems not bad. It raised its skinny hand covered with rotten flesh and pressed its hand against its chest. It didn't know why it did it, but it did it subconsciously, even though there was no heartbeat or heart. In the cell, Remy was struggling with the Dementors. After practice, Remy found that not every Dementor was as stupid as the previous one. At least this one quickly learned to use physical attacks to fight back after being beaten by Remy. Although its physical ability is terrible, it is very strong. Fortunately, Remy is not a vegetarian either. Although he is not strong, he can shield himself. With this shield in place, the Dementor had no power over Remy. But Remy also had no power over the Dementor. Dementors can't break Remy's defense, so Remy's fighting against Dementors is just like fighting a special plot boss in the game. At first glance, the damage numbers are soaring, but when you look up, hey, this boss doesn't even have a health bar. Brother, let me discuss something. Put me down and I'll give you the magic crystal, which is what I gave to the soul bomb just now. You should have noticed it just now, right? It's a super delicious treasure. Remy, who was picked up by the neck, had no choice but to change his strategy and choose bribery. However, what he didn't expect was that the Dementor in front of him not only did not let go after hearing his words, but instead reached out to pick his pocket. Remy's face suddenly turned dark. The current situation reminded him of what happened before, and then he thought of his belongings that had turned into nothing. Put me down right now. Do you hear me? If you don't let go, I'll kill you. No matter how Remy punched and kicked him, the Dementor remained motionless, still searching Remy's pockets and even trying to take off his clothes. Realizing that he couldn't stop it alone, Remy called for help. Soul Bullet! Come in. I need you. Help me. Just after he finished calling in broken English, suddenly, a blinding light shone into the cell. The Dementor quickly let go of his hand and put it in front of him, moving his body backwards. Click. Along with the sound of the cell door opening, the white light gradually dimmed. Looking at the person who walked in, Remy's eyes suddenly widened with an expression of disbelief. Beautiful, so beautiful. She was wearing a floor-length white wedding dress, holding a bouquet of white roses, with arms as white as mutton fat jade, a white veil on her head, and her whole body was shrouded in a hazy white light. She slowly walked to Remy's side, bent down, stretched out her hand, and gently helped Remy up. Remy came back to his senses and quickly turned his head and coughed. Ahem, that little Dementor can't hurt me at all. Even if I don't have a wand, I can still fight it with my bare hands. As he spoke, Remy adjusted his hair and then saluted her like a gentleman. May I know what your name is, beautiful lady? My name is Remy, Remy Barrett. Are you here to pick me up? Did Principal Dumbledore introduce you? Ahem, did Principal Dumbledore invite you here, or did Teacher Nicholas Flamel invite you here? Remy asked. She didn't say anything, but wrote in the air with her finger as a pen, I am Soul Bomb. Remy. WTF. Soul Bullet? Isn't that the name I just gave to the Dementor outside the door? Thinking of this, Remy quickly walked to the door and stuck his head out. It was quiet outside, without a single ghost in sight. You are really... I don't know if it thought he was going to escape, or if it wanted to escape on its own, but the Dementor suddenly pounced on Remy, and then... Bang! The unidentified woman in a wedding dress who claimed to be the Soul Bullet swung the white rose in her hand and hit the Dementor against the south wall with a bang like hitting a baseball. The huge force even knocked the Dementor directly into the wall. Remy, who witnessed all this, suddenly twitched his mouth. Wow, not only is she a mute bride, but she's also an iron lady who doesn't like red makeup and prefers weapons? Remy took a deep breath, closed the door, then walked to the woman in the wedding dress and looked at her. The more Remy looked at him, the more he felt that the other party was fooling him. Can a Dementor become so beautiful? Cheating children? If Dementors could become this beautiful, I'm afraid all the bachelors in the wizarding world would have to line up to go to Azkaban, and they would have to apply for it. What's more, Dementors are 15 feet tall, which is a little over 4.5 meters, close to 4.6 meters. The one in front of me is estimated to be only 1.7 meters tall? Which Pokemon shrinks so much after evolving? I still don't believe that you are a Soul Bullet. If you really are a Soul Bullet, then lift up your veil and show me your face. Remy stared at her and said. She nodded and slowly lifted her veil. Chapter 42. Her veil is not like a wedding headscarf where you can see the back at a glance. It is thicker, so you can't see her face at all, but the style is similar to a wedding headscarf, and it is embroidered with delicate patterns, which is very beautiful. As she lifted her headscarf and saw her chin and mouth, Remy became excited. The mouth is a little like a cherry. Although it lacks blood color and is not rosy at all, it looks inexplicably delicate. However, when she lifted up her headscarf and saw her true face, Remy suddenly wilted, his aggrieved heart was broken. Her face and facial features still only have an outline. Although the outline is clearer, the slightly reflective white texture makes her look like a pure white porcelain doll that has forgotten to be painted. It is indescribably weird. If she went to a haunted house, she could definitely go straight to work. Okay, I believe you. You are indeed a Soul Bullet. Sighing heavily, Remy asked the ceiling speechlessly. Oh my god, I finally got my heart moved once, but you made me lose so completely. Chow. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. He turned around and saw that the Dementor had already pulled him off the wall. Remy roared, rushed over, pinned it to the ground and started beating it up. The Dementor covered his head and remained motionless, allowing Remy to vent his emotions on him. Remy stopped only after he was tired. I'm so PD. Come on, why don't you evolve your face first? How can I, wait? Remy hurriedly ran to the soul bomb and lifted the soul bomb's veil, but not completely. He only lifted it to the height of revealing its mouth. Open your mouth. The soul bomb opened its mouth obediently. Its mouth is like a black hole, pitch black, and you can't see anything. It's okay. Although it's a bit soulless without a tongue, it's still usable. Remy calmly loosened her headscarf and made a comment, then walked to the wall and banged on it. I'm so angry, why is it that the head hasn't evolved well? Even if you can't open your mouth, as long as your face is beautiful, it will still be pleasing to the eye, right? Now, looking at the appearance makes me feel itchy, but when I think of that face and mouth, my heart becomes cold, okay. Before he hit the wall, Remy had already calmed down. He sat down against the wall and waved to the soul bullet. It's not appropriate for you to call it soul bullet now. I'll change your name. From now on, you can call. Before Remy could come up with a satisfactory name, Soul Bullet raised his hand and wrote in the air again, Master, I like the name you gave me, can you change it? Remy. You already called me Master, what else can I say? Okay, but, how did you become like this? Because of the magic crystal? Remy asked. Soul Bullet lowered his head as if thinking, and then wrote quickly in the air, I don't really know. But I was very happy when my master gave me a name. This is a feeling I have never had before. Moreover, the master also rewarded me with many magic crystals, which made me feel that you are very good to me. When I eat the magic crystals rewarded by the master, I feel very sweet in my heart. When I heard you, master, calling my name and saying that you needed me and needed my help, I was very excited, and then I became like this now. I'm sorry that I couldn't become someone that satisfied my master. No, I'm very happy with you now. I was just having a seizure just now. You don't have to mind it. Remy waved his hands and quickly extracted the keywords from Soul Bomb's words in his mind. Get a name, feel happy, no evolution. Take magic crystal, feel sweet, no evolution. Hear the call, feel needed, and evolve successfully. For 3 different conditions, is it sufficient to satisfy only the last one, or must all 3 conditions be satisfied at the same time to produce a qualitative change? New experimental project. Soul Bullet, tell me what changes have taken place between you now and before? Are you still immortal? Remy asked. As soon as he asked, Remy suddenly wanted to slap himself. What a weird name. Compared to Remy's annoyance, Soul Bullet didn't mind his name, and even seemed very happy when Remy called his name. After its introduction, Remy roughly understood its current status. Its immortality is still there, just in a different form. Now it is very similar to the Patroness summoned by Expecto Warden, which has absolute restraint on Dementors. At the same time, it is different from the Patroness in that it has a physical body. And its ultimate move, Dementor's Kiss, which could absorb other people's positive emotions, has undergone a 180-degree reversal, and now it absorbs other people's negative emotions. Everything has its limits, right? Remy nodded, then pounced on the Dementor that was creeping towards the door. Want to run? Forget about the door, there's no window. Soul Bullet, lock the door. Then come and help me beat it. Soul Bullet nodded, stood up, walked to the door and locked it. It was not until then that Remy realized that the Soul Bullet did not move by walking, but by floating like before. When the Soul Bomb came to him, Remy lifted up its skirt and saw that, as expected, his favorite long legs were not there. Remy, who was even more disappointed, turned his grief and anger into strength, and with the help of the Soul Bullet, he beat the Dementor again and again. Tired of fighting again, Remy used alchemy to create a handful of magic crystals, took out one and threw it to the Dementors on the ground, then Remy gave the remaining magic crystals to the Soul Bomb. Soul Bomb is not suitable to go outside in its current state. From now on, you will be responsible for bringing Dementors here for me. The price remains the same, 1 magic crystal for 1 Dementor. If you dare to go out and not come back, I will let Soul Bomb go out and beat you. Do you understand? Remy said. The Dementor picked up the magic crystal and swallowed it. His body suddenly shook and he nodded repeatedly, thinking in his heart, let alone giving the magic crystal, even if I don't give it to you, I will pull other Dementors over, I can't be the only one who is unlucky. Let the soul bullet release the Dementors. Remy walked to the bed and lay on it, thinking about how to do the experiment and how to take the soul bullet away. This is the only Dementor in the world with a limited edition newlywed skin. It's super rare. Still obedient. Such a wonderful magical creature. Don't say Remy is crazy. Unless he dies, there is no way he would leave it to the Ministry of Magic. Soul bullet, when I get out of prison, if I can convince the Ministry of Magic to let you leave here, will you be willing to come with me? Remy asked. Wherever the master goes, I will go. The soul bullet floated over and rode in front of Remy. If the master needs me, I can let you out now. It would be easy as long as you are willing to go with me, but now is not the time to leave, said Remy. Turning over, Remy lay on the bed and pointed at his back. Come and give me a back rub and a shoulder massage. Thinking of the miserable state of the Dementors just now, Remy quickly added another sentence. Don't use too much force, hit it gently first, let me feel the strength first. Soul bullet nodded, floating in the air and reaching out to start rubbing Remy's back. In the wizard prison Azkaban, Remy's quality of life has improved instead of decreased. Chapter 43. After using 5 Dementors, spending 2 days, and conducting constant experiments, Remy finally gave up. He couldn't do it. No matter how he met the previous 3 conditions, he couldn't create a Dementor with a limited edition skin for newlyweds. But it's not a complete loss. At least we know that the importance of the magic crystal is not as high as we initially guessed. The most important reason for the evolution of the soul bomb must be the change in its own inner emotions. This kind of change is almost impossible to replicate. A new bride Dementor could not be created, and the previous plan to create a zombie bride by studying the Dementors had now been accidentally exceeded. Bored Remy could only wait quietly in the prison of Azkaban for the day when he would be released from prison. Fortunately, he didn't have to wait too long that day. Someone opened the cell door within a few hours. As soon as the cell door opened, Dumbledore, Nicholas Flamel, and Minister Fudge, who came to rescue him, were all dumbfounded. I saw Remy lying comfortably in a rocking chair. Next to the rocking chair was a high table filled with fruits and juices, and there was a bottle with a bouquet of white roses. A masked lady in a wedding dress stood behind the rocking chair and rubbed Remy's shoulders. Next to her, 2 Dementors were fanning Remy with 2 large fans. It was even more exaggerated in the corner, where 3 Dementors were clumsily playing guitar, drums, and harp. There were strange white symbols on the black turban covering the face of each Dementor. If they had learned Huxia, they would be able to understand them. Written on their faces were 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Seeing this scene, not to mention Dumbledore and Fudge, even Nicholas Flamel couldn't help but twitch his eyes. You are not in prison here, you are here on vacation, right? Minister Fudge's face turned pale, and he shouted, who allowed you to give him fruit? Dumbledore glanced at Fudge and thought, is this the point? Shouldn't the point be why there is an inexplicable creature in the cell? With his keen eyesight, he could tell at first sight that the soul bullet was not a human, but because he had never seen it before, he didn't know what kind of monster it was. Hey, why are you making so much noise? Can't you let people have a good rest? Hunyi, go and bring the fruit plate to that little fat boy. Look how greedy he is. Remy said. As the 3 people looked at each other with different expressions, the Dementor behind Remy's left bowed respectfully, then put down his fan, picked up the fruit plate and floated towards the 3 people. Seeing the Dementors floating over, Fudge took a step back in fright, but he quickly reacted and hurried back to his original position. Okay, you can go out now. The prisoner can be released now. There is nothing for you to do now. Fudge said. However, the Dementor ignored him and turned around and floated over to Remy, picked up the fan, and returned to his original position to continue fanning Remy. Fudge's face darkened instantly. Are you FG going to rebel? Didn't you hear what I said? I, the Minister of Magic, now order you all to get out. Fudge roared. However, not even the Dementors, let alone the humans, paid any attention to him. Remy. Dumbledore pushed up his glasses and walked into the cell. Who is this behind you? How's the new maid from Azkaban? Is she okay? Remy said. Dumbledore nodded. It is indeed very beautiful, but, what kind of magical creature is it? Dementors. Dementors. Yes, mutant Dementors. Mutated Dementors? Dumbledore was stunned for a moment, and suddenly remembered what Remy had told him before about creating a zombie bride by studying Dementors. Has it really been researched? It's only been a few days? You are too fast. See, I told you Remy has the power to change the world, right? Nicholas Flamel walked forward with a smile and looked at the soul bullet, nodding from time to time. It was unknown whether he saw something or was very satisfied with the appearance of the soul bullet. Taking this opportunity, Remy quickly put forward his idea. Teacher, I want to take it with me, is that okay? No. Before Nicholas Flamel could speak, Minister Fudge refused outright. Trespassing into Azkaban is the most serious of all crimes. Even if she didn't do anything bad, she will be locked up in Azkaban forever. Are you crazy? It's... Remy. Nicholas Flamel interrupted Remy and then looked at Minister Fudge. Minister Fudge, conviction requires evidence. Do you have any evidence to prove that this lady broke in from outside? Isn't it evidence that she is not a prisoner in Azkaban but is here? Fudge asked. Of course not. Nicholas Flamel smiled. My disciple's attainments in alchemy have surpassed mine to an unprecedented level, and he does not need a wand to use alchemy. This lady was created by him based on the Dementors, not from outside. That won't work. In Azkaban. I know that you are not allowed to cast spells in Azkaban, but this prohibition on casting spells requires the Dementors to keep a close watch on the prisoners. Nicholas Flamel interrupted Fudge again. Now that Remy still has the ability to cast spells, the responsibility does not lie with him, but with the Dementors. If you must punish someone, you should punish the Dementors. Well, by the way, you can also hold them responsible for giving Remy the fruit plate. After hearing what Nicholas Flamel said, especially when he heard about the fruit plate, Minister Fudge's face suddenly turned as dark as a black hole. Remy was surprised. He didn't understand how Nicholas Flamel could suddenly become as sharp-tongued as him and find legal loopholes. As a good student, he would ask questions if he had any, and Nicholas Flamel quickly told Remy the answers. I just learned this from your father recently. My father? Could it be that the Ministry of Magic has brought my father to the wizarding world because of me? The word catch isn't quite accurate. I just asked you to come over. Nicholas Flamel said with a smile. Your father really opened Dumbledore and me's eyes. He argued with the entire jury alone in the Wiesengamot, not only leaving them speechless, but in the end he turned the tables and brought charges against Minister Fudge, who was presiding over the trial, in the Wiesengamot, forcing Minister Fudge to temporarily adjourn the court. Minister Fudge's face suddenly turned darker. After a temporary recess, your father asked me for 5,000 galleons, saying that he was going to bribe the jurors, and finally returned me nearly 4,000. In the afternoon, the trial continued, and in just 1 hour, a resolution to acquit you was passed by a high vote, on the condition that you pay in excess of the losses suffered by the Ministry of Magic and Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Even Minister Fudge voted in favor. He seemed to have reached some kind of cooperation with your father in private. Your father is really amazing. Nicholas Flamel exclaimed. Remy glanced at Fudge, who was so embarrassed that he turned to look out the door, and smiled smugly. Of course. My father graduated from Oxford Law School and then went to London School of Economics for further studies. He has been dealing with politicians since he started working. Bribery is as easy for him as eating and drinking. Chapter 44. You are so proud of yourself. And you, Nicholas Flamel, what's so praiseworthy about a man who loves to exploit loopholes and bribe? Dumbledore felt really tired. The parent is a litigator, the teacher has distorted values, the Minister of Magic accepts bribes, and Remy himself is so lawless that he is on vacation in Azkaban. Even the Dementors rebelled. As the only normal person, Dumbledore felt out of tune with these half-human and half-human creatures around him, and even their styles were different. Remy is like a ray of light shining in the darkest place in the wizarding world, but unfortunately he is a black light. Under his shining, the dark place becomes even darker. Now that everything has been settled, let's leave here first and talk about anything on the way. Dumbledore said tiredly. Yes, this is not a good place to chat. Nicholas Flamel smiled and signaled Remy to leave. Remy looked at Fudge, who walked aside silently to make way for the door, and immediately felt relieved. Soul 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You 5 must listen carefully to Minister Fudge in Azkaban and assist him in managing the prisoners in Azkaban prison while also assisting him in managing the other Dementors. Do you hear me? Remy said. The 5 Dementors bowed 90 degrees in unison, causing Dumbledore's eyes to twitch again. I really don't know what these 5 Dementors have been through in the past few days to make them so respectful to Remy. However, based on the past inference that Remy was about to destroy Fox as soon as he saw it for the experiment, one thing is certain, Remy will never use positive means such as truth, goodness, and beauty to influence them. Following Nicholas Flamel and Dumbledore, Remy leisurely left the dreaded prison of Azkaban with the soul bullet, and boarded the flying carriage brought by Nicholas Flamel to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Flying carriage? Okay. Flying cars? No. On the one hand, they emphasize the nobility of wizards and look down on Muggles, and on the other hand, they are afraid of things invented by Muggles. The magical world is so wonderful and absurd. I suddenly feel that inventing a kind of protective gear that can automatically defend against thermal weapons is more important than magic firearms. If every wizard can walk in the hail of bullets, the magic world may not be so averse to items made by Muggles. Remy suddenly said with deep emotion. It's a good idea for you, but, right now you need to protect the lady next to you. Nicholas Flamel said as he glanced at Soul Bomb who was serving tea to Remy. Remy shook his head, it doesn't need my protection. It is actually an evolution of the Dementors. Like the Dementors, it has immortality. We can see that, Dumbledore said solemnly, but we can also see that its evolution is related to positive emotions. Now that it has a soul, those dark magics filled with negative energy will certainly cause serious harm to it even if they cannot kill it. Yes. Nicholas Flamel nodded, took the cup of tea handed to him by Soul Bullet, thanked him and continued. There is only one such special lady, and you did not ask to take a few Dementors with you when you left. From what I know about you, this means that you created this lady by accident. After his secret was exposed, Remy's face turned red and he quickly drank tea to hide his embarrassment. It gives me a feeling similar to a patroness. It should be able to restrain Dementors, so there is no need to worry about the Dementor's kiss. But as Professor Dumbledore just said, curses cast with negative energy can definitely cause damage to it. If it is seriously injured, I guess it will most likely turn back into an ordinary Dementor. Nicholas Flamel continued. Degenerating into an ordinary Dementor? How is that possible? Remy frowned and nodded, indicating that he would definitely protect the Soul Bullet. Nicholas Flamel and Dumbledore were speechless when they heard Remy call the Soul Bullet. Fortunately, they did not remain speechless for long, because being around the Soul Bomb, their negative emotions were slowly dissipating, and they unconsciously relaxed and felt physically and mentally happy. After discovering this magical phenomenon, Dumbledore glanced at Nicholas Flamel and kept hypnotizing himself in his heart. Nicholas Flamel is not a person with distorted values. He must have been affected by the Soul Bomb because he was too close to it. It's no wonder that after this hypnosis, Dumbledore suddenly felt happier both physically and mentally. He was even in the mood to talk to Remy about the compensation. Principal Dumbledore, before I compensate Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, shouldn't you compensate me for my losses first? What you took out from me were not only items from the Muggle world, but also a large number of precious magic materials and magic cards given to me by my teachers, as well as the extremely precious magic crystals that I have saved up for many years by living frugally. Remy said with a smile, gritting his teeth. Ahem. Dumbledore coughed awkwardly twice and turned to look out the window, never mentioning compensation again. Remy just dug a hole in the open space next to the Black Lake. At most, he would have to compensate him, Professor McGonagall and the Owls for some mental damages. Compared with Remy's losses, they were almost negligible. If the matter is really investigated, he might not be able to afford the compensation even if he sold his underpants. Seeing Dumbledore's embarrassment, Nicholas Flamel comforted Remy with a few words and said that he would make a new set of magic cards and send them to Remy later. Speaking of the new magic cards, Remy suddenly remembered that he had promised Hagrid that he would help him customize magic cards. Remy immediately mentioned it to Nicholas Flamel and asked him whether the magic cards given to him had been tampered with. Nicholas Flamel did not hide anything in response to Remy's inquiry and quickly gave Remy a positive answer. After getting the answer he wanted, Remy didn't say anything. He was not an ungrateful person. He understood that Nicholas Flamel did this for his own good. There was no words for a moment. Remy looked at the sky outside the window and recalled the bizarre experiences of the past few days. On the second day of school, he first blew up the Black Lake, then his magic went out of control at the Ministry of Magic. Most likely he also blew up the Ministry of Magic, otherwise they wouldn't have asked him for compensation, and finally he was imprisoned in Azkaban prison. Remy didn't know how long he had been unconscious or asleep, he only knew that he had only been in Azkaban for 2 days after waking up, and now he has been acquitted. My experiences over the past few days have been really bizarre. Do you think if I write them into a book and publish it, will it be a big seller? I've even thought of a title for the book. It's called Teaching You How to Join the Hidden School of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Azkaban. What do you think? Remy asked. Nicholas Flamel. Dumbledore. Not very good. Chapter 45. The flying carriage did not land inside Hogwarts Castle, but at a station nearby. Nicholas Flamel left shortly after Dumbledore and Remy got off the car, without staying for long. Remy, who still remembered the plot, guessed that he did this to avoid scaring away the coward Voldemort. Who in the entire wizarding world doesn't know that the Philosopher's Stone is in the hands of Nicholas Flamel? Why didn't Voldemort just go and take it from Nicholas Flamel? On the one hand, it was because Nicholas Flamel lived in a relatively secret place and few people knew about it. On the other hand, this is because, never try to attack the alchemist's lair unless you are tired of living. As the most powerful alchemist in the wizarding world, Nicholas Flamel might not be the strongest if he were outside, but in his home, even Dumbledore could not defeat him. There was not even the slightest chance. Following Dumbledore out of the station, Remy learned about the general destruction of the Ministry of Magic from Dumbledore on the way. Remy was completely relieved when he learned that there were no casualties. I'm glad there are no casualties. By the way, what was that big fish that swallowed me? No, what was it that I caught? Did you catch it and refrigerate it? Remy asked. It's a giant squid that lives in the Black Lake. You blew it up so badly that only a few of its tentacles were left intact. Professor Snape took it for research. Dumbledore said, by the way, you have a potions class today, remember to go to class. Oh, by the way, Principal Dumbledore, please help arrange a separate room for Soul Bomb. Although it is not a real female, it will not have a good influence if it lives with me in the boys' dormitory. Remy said. Dumbledore thought for a moment and nodded. I will ask Mr. Filch to clear out a room. Mr. Filch will notify you when it is finished. Okay, thank you very much. As they walked and talked, the two soon walked out of the station and came to a main road. There were several carriages there, each pulled by a skinny, black horse with bat-like wings. We even have thestrals in Hogwarts. The biodiversity is quite great. Remy praised. As a time traveler who had died once and witnessed his own death, Remy could naturally see the thestrals. Not only can you see it, you can see it very clearly. Can you see the thestrals? Dumbledore was a little surprised, then his face changed. Don't, thestral. Pull out bang. The corner of his mouth twitched. Dumbledore sighed and helplessly put down his raised hand, then turned his head to look at Remy, who was kicked away by the thestral and stuck on the branch. The thestral's tail feathers can only be obtained after they fall off naturally. They cannot be plucked directly. The same is true for unicorn tail hairs. Dumbledore explained tiredly. Who said that? Didn't I just pull it off? Remy said, shaking the black feather in his hand. Dumbledore rolled his eyes at Remy in annoyance. That was you. If it were anyone else, they would have been in the hospital by now, or even lying in the cemetery. That's not necessarily true. I think Hagrid will be fine if he gets kicked. After loading the spoils and jumping down from the tree, Remy got on the thestral. However, after waiting for a long time, the bus did not leave. Is this car closed today? Remy asked. No, it just doesn't want to take you. How about you get off? Dumbledore asked. Go down? Walk? What a joke. He scratched his head and just happened to scratch off a leaf. Remy's eyes suddenly lit up. Remy put the leaves in the air. In about 3 seconds, the leaves disappeared and a set of fishing gear appeared in the air. Fishing rods and fishing lines are all available. Dumbledore watched curiously, not understanding what Remy was trying to do. At this moment, Remy started alchemy again, and this time he made magic crystals. As soon as the magic crystal appeared, Yechi immediately turned his head and stared at the magic crystal with his 2 empty eyes. Remy grinned, tied the magic crystal to the fishing line, and then cast the fishing rod. The straight pole was placed right on the Night Thestral's head, and the magic crystal was not far in front of it. You're welcome. As long as you can catch up with it, it's yours, said Remy. The hollow eye suddenly burst into a blazing light, and the next moment... Whoosh! I'm boiling. Remy, who was almost shaken off, quickly grabbed the railing, and Dumbledore next to him was also almost shaken off. Ha 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 ha. I didn't expect that Yechi, who is so skinny, could run so fast. It's just a little silly. But I like it so much. It's decided. From today on, you will be Yizi Mo Diao Ban Li Lai Kailan. I am Yuan Bali. Someone, bring up my Legu Wan Jin Chui. Remy laughed as he controlled the fishing rod to jump left and right, and moved serpentinely on the road with the Thestral that was chasing the magic crystal, making Dumbledore behind him turn pale. He never expected that Remy could have so much fun just riding in a carriage to Hogwarts Castle. At the same time, in Azkaban, Minister Fudge severely reprimanded the 5 Dementors and then helplessly let the Dementors do what they were supposed to do without any punishment. Although the Dementors listen to the Ministry of Magic, they are after all very different from real Ministry of Magic employees. The Dementors only have a cooperative relationship with the Ministry of Magic. The Ministry of Magic provides food for the Dementors, and the Dementors help the Ministry of Magic guard and punish extremely vicious criminals. This partnership may seem simple, but it is actually very complex. It is difficult to distinguish between them who is Party A and who is Party B. In theory, providing food is equivalent to paying compensation, and the Ministry of Magic should be Party A. But if the Ministry of Magic does not provide food, the extremely hungry Dementors are likely to cause trouble. It's more of a compromise than a cooperation. Therefore, after being severely reprimanded by Minister Fudge, the 5 Dementors did not care at all, and even ignored Fudge during the reprimand. After Minister Fudge left, the Dementor with the number 1 written on his face pointed and instructed the remaining 4 Dementors to move away everything Remy had made, and then floated forward along the passage. It floated all the way to the door of a cell and opened it. With a click, a disheveled man in the cell looked at the Dementor that appeared at the door, screamed in fear, and crawled towards the corner using his hands and feet. He huddled in a corner, holding his head tightly with his arms, shaking all over, looking extremely frightened. Click, another sound was heard, and the man felt something was wrong. He quietly raised his head and took a look. The Dementor closed the cell door, then floated in front of him and bent down. The man suddenly let out another scream of terror. Just when he thought he was going to suffer torture again today, he suddenly saw a letter in front of him, a letter handed to him by a Dementor. He stared at the letter blankly, completely confused for a moment. How could anyone write to him? Or was it sent by the Dementors? Could it be that? Chapter 46. This letter is, for, me, the man asked in a trembling voice. The Dementor nodded and held the letter forward again, which startled the man again. Seeing that the Dementors did not attack, he no longer hesitated, snatched the letter at an extremely fast speed and opened it immediately. If it is a blessing, it will not be a disaster. If it is a disaster, it cannot be avoided. He has been imprisoned in Azkaban. What is there to be afraid of? Maybe, someone is coming to rescue him. I opened the envelope and took out the letter. As soon as I saw the beginning, this man started crying. Dear Mr. Black, hello, I am Harry Potter's classmate. I have been interested in him for a long time, so I have investigated his past. During the investigation, I found many suspicious points, among which the most suspicious point is you, Sirius Black, who was directly imprisoned in Azkaban prison without trial. I have investigated your past. You were born into the Black family, which is the most fanatical about bloodline theory. You were born into a noble family and have the pride and arrogance of an old noble. But you betrayed your family's ideals a long time ago and became enemies with other family members. It's impossible for someone like you to change your ways and join Voldemort. Finally someone is willing to believe me. Someone is willing to believe me. And it has the ability to deliver the letter to Azkaban, to me. I can finally go out. Excitedly wiping away the tears that were blocking his vision, Sirius continued to watch with full anticipation, and then he was dumbfounded. But as a law-abiding citizen, if I help you escape from prison, I will become your accomplice, and I will also be breaking the law. Therefore, I can't help you escape from prison, not in this life. Sirius? But I'm happy to use legal loopholes to help you improve your living conditions in Azkaban. The Dementors with white words on their faces are my recently recruited younger brothers. With them around, you don't have to worry about being kissed by Dementors anymore. Of course, if you like being kissed by Dementors, you can tell them or hint to them, and they will satisfy your request. Sirius' mouth twitched and he almost tore up the letter. Holy shit, what kind of pervert would like to be kissed by a Dementor? And it was a Dementor's kiss. Not a Dementor's kiss. I was just ravaged by Dementors, not ruined by them. I will have the Dementors deliver some daily necessities to you in a while. I wish you a happy life in Azkaban live. Happy. Happy. In Azkaban. Sirius' eyes were red and he was breathing heavily. For a moment he couldn't tell whether the person who wrote to him was really trying to help him or was just mocking him. Click. Hearing the sound of the cell door opening, Sirius was startled, turned around quickly and stuffed the letter and envelope into his mouth. He swallowed a large ball of paper with great effort. Just after swallowing, he suddenly felt someone tapping his shoulder. Taking a deep breath, Sirius turned his head with a stern face. Looking at the fruit plate brought to him by the Dementors, Sirius started crying again. What the hell is going on here? On the other hand, because he accidentally had too much fun and wasted some time, after temporarily entrusting the soul bullet to the care of Headmaster Dumbledore, Remy trotted all the way to the potions class. What? You ask why not bring the soul bomb with you to class? Please, your question is very tricky. If Remy goes to class dressed in a wedding dress and is misunderstood by female classmates, how will he pick up girls in the future? I can't live with ghosts for the rest of my life, right? That would be no different from dying alone. Walking through the East Alley and the West Alley, after running in the wrong direction 3 times, Remy finally arrived at the potions class in the basement with the help of the portrait. Report. Bang. Professor Snape, who was patrolling back and forth, was stunned for a moment, then hurriedly walked to Neville, who had fallen to the ground. After an inspection, Professor Snape breathed a sigh of relief at first, but his face immediately turned stern the next moment. I will send Mr. Longbottom to the school hospital for treatment first. You guys continue, but don't make the same mistake as Mr. Longbottom. Potions is a very precise subject. Even if the sky falls, you must not tremble when administering the potion. After warning everyone in a deep voice, Professor Snape picked up Neville. As he passed by Remy, Professor Snape suddenly spoke again. Remy Barrett, Gryffindor House will be deducted 2 points for your tardiness, and 3 more points for your loud noises that caused Mr. Longbottom to injure himself by mistake, for a total of 5 points. Professor Snape said. Remy, who was originally looking at the blushing Neville with curiosity, suddenly became unhappy after hearing this. Are you kidding me? I just got released from Azkaban. It's not easy for me to come to class. And you still want to count me as late? Remy said indignantly. That's your business, not my business, Snape said. What do you mean it's my business? Do you have the ethics of a teacher? Is someone like you who is looking for trouble qualified to be a teacher? Questioning the teacher will result in another 5 points deduction. Hey, you little hot-tempered one. Say that to me again. Talk back to the teacher and lose another 5 points. Can you be a human being? If you really can't learn, why don't you go back to school and be retrained? Another 5 points will be deducted for insulting the teacher. Let me go, I want to fight him one-on-one. Harry and Ronald appeared beside Remy at some point and covered Remy's mouth to stop him from speaking, while at the same time holding down Remy's middle finger, which was about to be raised in anxiety. If he keeps talking, Gryffindor's house score might actually become negative. Snort. With a sneer, Professor Snape shook his shiny hair. Finish your potions before I return. That includes you, Mr. Barrett. After leaving a few words, Professor Snape carried Neville out of the classroom, while Remy was forcibly dragged to the table by Harry and Ronald. Remy, I've heard from my brothers that Snape is unreasonable, and he had deliberately made things difficult for Harry before you came. That's right, hurry up and brew the potion, otherwise our house points will be deducted when Professor Snape comes back to check the homework. Hey, don't you care about how I got out of Azkaban? How else could you get out of prison? It must be that Headmaster Dumbledore helped you, so the Ministry of Magic didn't convict you. Although we are all very curious about the legendary Azkaban, the most urgent task now is to brew the potion. If we don't brew it now, it will be too late. Who said I was acquitted? Remy struggled to break free from the 2 men, then threw his wizard robe away handsomely. I escaped from prison. Everyone. Chapter 47. Jail broke in? All the little wizards subconsciously moved away from Remy, as if this would allow them to sever their ties with Remy. Harry and Ronald stared at Remy in disbelief, especially Ronald, whose expression at the moment was unclear whether he was crying or laughing. Although he was crying, the corners of his mouth were raised. It's called a smile, but it looks uglier than crying. Remy, you have to be kidding me. Harry asked. How come? When have I ever joked? After saying that, Remy lowered his head, thought for a moment, and spread his hands. Oh, I think I was joking the whole time. Well, I was joking, call. Ronald was the first to breathe a sigh of relief, but then his heart began to lift again. But what do you want me to use to make the potion? Remy looked around. Don't pots are provided in potions class? Well. Harry and Ronald looked at each other and saw deep despair in each other's eyes. It's over. It looks like I'm going to lose this point today. Since you're here for class, why don't you bring your crucible with you? Ronald muttered, his expression sounding more like a complaint than a question. Look at what you said. I didn't bring my textbooks either. How could I bring those things here if I didn't go back to the dormitory? Remy said. Harry. Ronald. What you said makes a lot of sense, no wonder you are so confident. The two people who were already numb decided to give up the possibility of Remy not being deducted points, and instead discussed how to reduce the number of points deducted from Remy. In the end, Harry gave Remy his notebook. His notebook and the potions textbook both had black covers and were similar in size, in an attempt to help Remy get away with it. After all, it was Harry's good intention. Remy took the notebook and stood aside to watch the two of them prepare the potion. I thought maybe you could use Neville's cauldron. You're in the same dormitory, and he's in the hospital now, so he probably won't be able to use it again, said Hermione, who was brewing potion diagonally opposite them. Oh, Hermione, you're a genius. Harry was overjoyed at the sudden change and hurried over with Ronald to move Neville's cauldron for Remy to use. Looking at the dirty cauldron, Remy was a little disgusted, but under Harry and Ronald's repeated urging, he finally reluctantly agreed to use Neville's cauldron to prepare the potion. I really can't understand why the potion class has to be held in a basement with poor ventilation. Remy covered his nose while brewing the potion. The pungent smell of the potion lingered for a long time, and there is no place to wash the cauldron. I can't figure it out either, but now is not the time to complain, we have to. Wait a minute, Remy, what did you just put in there? Harry suddenly asked with his eyes wide open. Remy looked at the pot in front of him and thought for a moment. Narcissus root powder, what's wrong? Why did you put narcissus root powder? You should put porcupine quills. Harry said anxiously. Remy blinked. Why do you need to put porcupine quills? Of course, porcupine quills are needed to prepare boil-removing medicine. Do you read books? Ronald asked. I just followed the book. Remy pointed speechlessly at the potion book that Harry had placed on the table. The right half of the page closer to Remy contained the water of life and death, but the left half of the book closer to Harry contained the boil-eliminating potion. Harry and Ronald were speechless. Well, I hope your water of life and death can be brewed successfully and is strong enough. When Snape comes back to taste the potion, maybe we can directly drug him. That way we don't have to worry about losing house points. Ronald complained. The speaker may not mean it, but the listener may take it seriously. After hearing what Ronald said, Remy's eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, I can pour the potion out for Snape. Since you just deducted points from me, I have to teach you a lesson and let you know who is the king of Hogwarts. While boiling the water of life and death, Remy secretly looked at the boil-removing medicine that others were about to boil, observing the color, consistency, and taste of the real boil-removing medicine. Well, I need to adjust the color and add some thickener. I'm not going to eat it anyway, so I'll just use some industrial-grade strong pigments and strong thickeners. It shouldn't kill the wizard. Thinking of this, Remy picked up a piece of licorice from the shelf next to him and started alchemy. Harry and Ronald on the side looked at Remy with empty eyes. Although they didn't know what he was doing, after looking at each other, they stood silently beside Remy to help Remy block other people's sight, especially the sight from the Slytherin college next door. Especially the gaze of a certain platinum-haired male student. After a while, Remy successfully refined the necessary pigments and thickeners, and added them into the water of life and death little by little. He added it, stirring as he went, until it was about the same color and consistency as the paste in Harry's cauldron next to him. After sniffing back and forth, Remy once again started alchemy to refine the essence. When everything was done, Remy clapped his hands happily. It's done. I'm 100% sure it's the boil remover, said Remy. Harry and Ronald looked at each other, and saw joy and a hint of mischievous anticipation in each other's eyes. Hermione, who was sitting diagonally opposite, was both worried and speechless. If Professor Snape finds out about this, it will be a huge problem. But there was no other way to get away with it now. Professor Snape might come back at any time, and it was simply unrealistic to brew a new pot of potion. At this moment, Hermione could only pray that Professor Snape would not taste Remy's potion. If so, Remy's potion might be able to pass muster with its appearance. Just as Hermione kept praying in her heart, Professor Snape really came back, perhaps because he heard her inner call. As soon as he entered the classroom, Professor Snape looked around the classroom and went straight to Remy, and Harry next to him. This made Remy feel a little unhappy. You were targeting me just now, but now you don't even look at me and are only staring at Harry. What do you mean? Who do you think I am? Thinking of this, while everyone's attention was on Harry and Snape who was tasting the potion Harry made with a silver spoon, Remy quietly put a magic crystal into the pot. Mr. Potter, although you have successfully brewed the potion, it has become a little mushy. The potency has been reduced by at least 30%. I guess you must not have stirred it throughout the process. Therefore, you fail. Gryffindor House will deduct. Sniff, what's this? Boil medicine? Why does boil removal medicine smell so good? Turning to look at the cauldron in front of Remy, Professor Snape's eyes widened slightly. A pot of magic potion, with bright colors and fragrant aroma, makes one's appetite grow at first sight. After hesitating for a moment, Snape swallowed unnoticeably, quickly said that Gryffindor would deduct 1 point, then threw away the spoon and walked over to Remy. Next, let me taste the potion brewed by Mr. Barrett. Snape said in a deep voice. Completion. Chapter 48. Hermione turned her head away in despair. Ronald and Harry were observing Snape quietly, wanting to see him but not daring to do so openly. In comparison, Remy was much more frank. He stared at Snape like someone in love with a rooftop, openly and aboveboard. As this was unusual, Snape scooped up a small spoonful of the potion and placed it in front of him to observe it for a while. Well, although the color is bright, it is indeed the color of the boil-removing medicine. It is a little thick, and it is obviously overboiled. But why is it that after being overcooked and having a slightly burnt smell, it still has such bright color? With doubt, I carefully put the spoon to my lips and licked it lightly. A refreshing magic immediately rushed from the tip of my tongue to my brain. In a moment of excitement, Snape drank the potion from the spoon in one gulp. Mr. Barrett, your potion is, with Potter. Before he could finish his sentence, Snape suddenly felt as if his brain was under a dementia spell, and his body was shaking and out of control. He quickly held onto the table with his hands, but his hand was only halfway out when he pressed it down hard. The press missed and Snape fell to the ground with a thud. It was as if God had pressed the pause button in the classroom, and everyone was stunned. Remy picked up a porcupine quill, squatted down and poked Snape. After confirming that Snape had really fainted, Remy kicked Snape hard with a bang. It's your due. I let you deduct points from me randomly, now I am getting my retribution, right? Deduct points from him? There has to be a price to pay for that. Remy stood up and looked at all the classmates who took a step back in fear, feeling a little puzzled. Why are you looking at me? He's not dead, he just drank the water of life and death. After explaining casually, Remy straightened his clothes and waved to Harry and Ronald. Don't stand there like an idiot. Are you going to wait here for him to wake up? Let's go. Get out of class is over. Remy said. Oh. Wait for me. When they heard the get out of class was over and looked at Snape lying on the ground, most of the young wizards, led by Remy, packed up their things and left. Only some Slytherin students discussed whether they should find a way to send their headmaster to the school hospital. Hey, you're really amazing. You actually created the water of life and death. It's so satisfying. Snape has lost all his face now. That's right, being poisoned by a student's potion in potions class is so embarrassing. I guarantee that it won't be long before word of Snape's potion skills spreads throughout Hogwarts, and even the entire wizarding world. Maybe other potion masters will use me as a negative example. The little Gryffindor wizards were chatting excitedly around Remy, when suddenly, a very unsociable voice poured cold water on them. You are just kidding. He is the head of Slytherin House. When he wakes up, he will definitely deduct even more points from our house. Hermione said with a cold face. The little wizards calmed down immediately and realized how serious the consequences of Remy's actions today would be. However, Remy, the person involved, shook his head disapprovingly, it's as if he won't deduct points from us if we behave ourselves. If we will be found guilty and deducted points no matter what we do, why should we put ourselves in such a difficult position? The little wizard's eyes suddenly lit up. Oh yes! Since they will be deducted points no matter how well they perform, why not take it easy? However, Hermione disagreed. At least that way we can reduce the points deducted and we still have a chance to win the house cup. If you keep making trouble like this, our house will have no chance of winning the house cup, said Hermione. That makes sense, but... Remy looked at Hermione and spread his hands. So what if you win the house cup? Honor? There are many kinds of honor, not just the house cup. For example, you can strive for the title of the top student in the grade. First in the grade? Hermione's eyes lit up, and she was immediately distracted by Remy. It was getting late, so after leaving the potions classroom, the group went to the dining hall to eat. The house elves had already prepared a sumptuous meal for them. While eating, Remy shared with the people around him his holiday experience in Azkaban and his interesting experience of teaching the Dementors to play musical instruments. Some people didn't believe what Remy said and thought he was bragging. They even used the legends about Dementors they heard from their parents to refute Remy. Remy didn't argue but just laughed it off. Facts speak louder than words. When the Dementors come to Hogwarts Castle one day, the cruel facts will slap them in the face. Even if Sirius doesn't escape from prison or the Ministry of Magic doesn't send Dementors to Hogwarts, he can command the Dementors to come and show up himself. As they were chatting, there was a sudden silence around them, and then a big skinny hand pressed on Remy's shoulder. Remy turned around and saw that it was Mr. Filch, the castle manager. Mr. Filch, what do you want from me? I don't need a massage right now. Even if I did, I wouldn't ask you, let alone extend the time, said Remy. Mr. Filch grinned in a frightening way. Principal Dumbledore wants to see you. I think it's about Professor Snape's admission to the hospital. You seem very happy. Do you have a grudge against Professor Snape? Remy asked. Don't thank me. I didn't do anything. He brought this upon himself. Humph. I'm just excited that the chains in the cell can finally be put to use. Come with me, said Filch. Just go, it's no big deal. I just got out of Azkaban. Do you think you can scare me? Giving Filch a blank look, Remy signaled to Harry and the others not to worry about him, then wiped his mouth, stood up, and followed Filch out of the cafeteria and into the headmaster's office. After taking Remy into the headmaster's office, Filch left, but said he would wait outside the door. In the headmaster's office, Dumbledore had been writing with his head down. He didn't even look at Remy or say a word the whole time. Seeing that Dumbledore ignored him, Remy was neither anxious nor reserved. After teasing Fawkes until he became so impatient that he flew out of the principal's office, Remy walked leisurely to the bookshelf to choose a magic book. After waiting for a while, Dumbledore heard only the sound of flipping pages. He raised his head slightly and glanced at Remy, then his mouth twitched suddenly. He saw Remy reading a book with great interest. The name of the book was The Complete Book of Ancient Black Magic. Damn it, I kept silent in order to create an atmosphere and put pressure on you, but you turned the tables and put pressure on me? Cough cough. Clearing his throat hastily, Dumbledore put down the pen in his hand. That's not the book you should be reading right now, Remy, said Dumbledore. Yeah, that's right. Remy thought about it for a moment before nodding and putting the book back on the shelf. Just when Dumbledore was wondering in surprise whether the sun rose from the west today, he saw Remy pick up another book and start reading. The book was called, A Complete Guide to Modern New Black Magic. Dumbledore. It seems that I was overthinking it, the sun rose as usual today. Chapter 49. Put the book down and tell me why you poisoned Professor Snape today. Who poisoned him? Students from Slytherin House told Madame Pomfrey that Professor Snape fell into a coma after drinking your water of life and death. Are you going to deny it? No, I simply refuse to admit that I poisoned Professor Snape. Remy held up a finger and shook it. I didn't put the water of life and death into Professor Snape's water. He used his own spoon to scoop a spoonful from the cauldron I used to brew the potion and drank it on his own initiative. So it can't be said that I poisoned him. It can only be said that Professor Snape's arrogance and illegal operation led to his own failure. Dumbledore. Was Snape under the Imperious Curse? Why would he try the water of life and death, a potion that is so easily recognizable? Wait, today should be the first potions class. When did the first potions class become a lesson on how to make the water of life and death? What potions did you learn today? Dumbledore asked. How would I know? When I arrived at the classroom, the class had already ended and the practical phase had already begun, said Remy. How did you make the potion if you don't know what you're studying? Dumbledore asked. Harry gave me the textbook and asked me to follow the steps in the textbook, so I did. At this point, Remy felt that it was not a good idea to continue the conversation, so he decisively changed the subject. Professor Snape is so unreasonable. I went to his class right after returning from Azkaban. Not only did he not show any gratitude, he even deducted 5 points from Gryffindor House for being late. I explained to him, but he said I contradicted him and deducted 5 credits from me. Then I argued with him calmly, but he still deducted 5 credits from me. This is really outrageous. I suggest that he be expelled. Dumbledore glanced sideways at Remy. If you deliberately emphasize being calm, it is enough to show that you are definitely not arguing with him in a calm manner. But I'll talk to him about the point deduction. You can go back first. Oh, by the way, Mr. Filch has already arranged a place for the soul bomb to stay. You can rest assured. At this point, Dumbledore hesitated for a moment, sighed, walked up to Remy and patted Remy on the shoulder. Can you please stop getting into trouble in the future? Can't you just study hard? If that doesn't work, you can also study magic items that can defend against firearms. I specially asked Mr. Filch to clean a big house for you. Oh no, it turns out my little thoughts were seen through long ago. Remy was a little surprised. He proposed to let Soul Bomb live alone just so that he could have a laboratory of his own. He thought he was a smart guy, but he didn't expect that he was seen through early on. But it doesn't matter if you see through it, at least the house has been approved. I don't really want to cause trouble, but what Professor Snape did was really too much. Why can the dean of a college deduct other people's points at will? Then why set up the house cup? Wouldn't it be better to just compare which dean of a college is more shameless? Remy pouted indignantly, then continued in a solemn and rich baritone. Gryffindor deducts 10,000 points, Ravenclaw deducts 10,000 points, Hufflepuff deducts 10,000 points, and Slytherin adds 100 million points. I declare that the winner of this school year's House Cup is Slytherin. Dumbledore looked at Remy speechlessly, thinking that Snape was not so shameless as to be this way. Just as he was about to say something nice to Snape in order to prevent Remy from targeting him, Remy's next words made his eyes light up. I propose a reform of the College Cup. Each of the 4 major colleges can add or deduct a maximum of 100 points to one college per academic year, and the details of the points added or deducted by each dean to each college must be announced at the College Cup Awards ceremony. It must be fair, just and open. If anyone shamelessly targets us, he will be completely disgraced in Hogwarts, said Remy. Set a maximum limit for bonus points and deduction points and make the scoring details public at the end. It seems feasible. Your suggestion is very good. I think it is feasible, but the upper limit of 100 points is a bit low. After all, the House Cup is not just a matter for you first-year students. It is the result of the joint efforts of students from all grades. Headmaster Dumbledore said. You go back first. I will discuss the credit limit with the 4 deans. We should be able to implement the new rules next week. Remy was moved and asked quickly, since the new scoring rules are to be implemented, shouldn't the scores of the 4 major colleges be reset to 0 for the sake of fairness? Giving Remy an amused look, Headmaster Dumbledore nodded. He knew that Remy's real intention was to reduce the points he had been deducted to 0. But it is indeed fairer this way. Yes, they will all be cleared, you can rest assured. Dumbledore said. That's great. Remy nodded vigorously, then I won't bother you anymore, you can discuss it with the deans. By seeing Remy's mood suddenly brighten up, Dumbledore shook his head with amusement, and then really thought about Remy's suggestion seriously. Remy's suggestion is feasible, but it needs to be further improved in details and also needs to be proposed by a suitable person. As the principal, he should have the final say rather than be the initiator of a proposal. On the other side, when Filch, who had been waiting at the door of the principal's office, saw Remy walking out of the principal's office happily alone, he snorted in disappointment. He understood that he might not be able to lock Remy in his beloved little dark room today. Principal Dumbledore said you found a big room for me. Could you please show me? Remy said. Humph, come with me. Despite his bad mood, Filch was still prepared to do his job well. As for Remy, if he continues to seek death this way, he will fall into my hands sooner or later. Filch is confident of this. The detention cell has been abandoned for too long. There hasn't been a student worthy of using that detention cell in a long time. I have great confidence in you, Mr. Barrett. Please don't let me down. Filch said meaningfully. Remy smiled when he heard Filch's hidden meaning. I feel relieved when you say that. If I get into trouble again, I will say that you instigated and encouraged me to do it. Snort. With another cold snort, Filch stopped talking to Remy and continued walking forward with Remy in silence. After walking up 2 moving staircases and passing through 3 secret passages, Filch finally took Remy up a spiral staircase to a tower. At the top of the tower there was a room of decent size with excellent lighting and ventilation. It's just a bit too good. Looks like I need to install a window here first, Remy commented. That's your business, I'm not responsible for these things. Filch sneered. Remy glanced at Filch and felt very amused. Do you think this kind of thing can stump me? Just kidding, I'm really good at pretending. Chapter 50. In the empty room, only the bride in her wedding dress was standing quietly in front of the window. It was a picturesque scene, but Remy felt uncomfortable when he thought of the bride's face. No, it was constant awkwardness. Do you need anything? A bed? A table, chair, or bench? Remy asked. Soul Bomb thought for a moment, shook her head, and wrote in the air that she didn't need anything. It was fine that the furniture was not needed, but the food gave Remy a headache. The food needed for soul bombs is too special and cannot be bought with money, especially in Hogwarts. Fortunately, it will not die even if it does not eat or drink, but Remy is not Brother Crow. How can he let his little brother who follows him go hungry for 9 meals in 3 days? Or maybe my little sister. As for food, I'll find a way. You'll have to bear with it for now. Oh, I also have to prepare food for the inmate in Azkaban. Remy patted his head, remembering that in the letter he wrote to the cellmate before he was released, he mentioned preparing food for him. The food was easy to prepare, but how was it to be sent to Azkaban? We couldn't use an owl, could we? After thinking it over, Remy turned his gaze to the soul bomb again. Do you know the way to Azkaban? Remy asked. The soul bomb lowered its head as if thinking, then shook its head and nodded and wrote in the air, I don't know the way to Azkaban, but I can sense the location of my compatriots. Fellow countrymen? You are their natural enemy now. Remy nodded with amusement and breathed a sigh of relief, help me deliver something to Azkaban later. I'll pay you for your service. How about 5 magic crystals per trip? Soul Bullet was stunned for a moment, then nodded quickly. After finishing one thing temporarily, Remy looked carefully at the circular room and made plans in his mind. First of all, of course, you need to install glass windows on all the windows, and they must be movable. To save trouble, Remy decided to abandon the more modern sliding windows with rollers or grooves and use a simpler, retro-style window that can be lifted up as a whole. After deciding on the shape of the window, Remy took out the magic crystals and gave 3 of them to the Soul Bullet for it to eat first. Then Remy picked up the remaining magic crystals and started alchemy using them as raw materials. Only. Boom. Bang. Ping pong. Ouch. Oh my god. Damn. Oh my god. With a loud bang, Remy crashed through the door and flew out, rolling along the spiral staircase all the way to Mrs. Norris. Mr. Filch looked at Remy in surprise, then looked up the stairs, with an excited smile on his face as if he had won the lottery. Mr. Barrett, it seems that you can't wait to visit the detention room, right? As he spoke, Filch stretched out his skinny but extremely strong hand, grabbed Remy's arm and lifted Remy up. Remy, who hadn't recovered yet and hadn't heard Filch's words clearly, was about to say thank you, but something felt wrong. Why are you pulling me? Where are you taking me? Remy asked puzzledly. Take you to a good place. Oh? What good place? You'll know when you get there. Okay, I'm looking forward to it. Out of curiosity, Remy followed Filch out of the tower and headed for an unknown good place. On the way, Remy impatiently urged Filch to walk faster several times. Filch was very understanding, increasing his speed several times, even though he was already out of breath. What a nice person. Remy thought so. After a quick march, Remy discovered that Filch had brought him to a basement area that should be underground. The light here was very poor, and the humidity in the air increased as he walked forward. Where is this? The bottom of the Black Lake. Remy asked curiously. That's right, said Filch. Remy frowned when he got a positive answer. Are you going to take me to the Slytherin dormitory? Is there anything fun there? How is that possible? Why would I take you to the Slytherin dormitory? I was taking you to, here we are. Stopping in front of a room, looking at the mottled oak door full of history, Remy was full of curiosity about what was inside the door. However, when Filch opened the door, Remy's heart suddenly tightened. My goodness, tiger benches, pepper spray, and cupping with pliers, are these really what schools should have? Interrogating spies is just like this. As he was sighing, Filch suddenly pushed Remy's back into the room and immediately turned around to close the door. After closing the door, Filch turned to look at Remy with a sinister smile, and then was stunned. Suddenly, a pair of handcuffs were put on his hands, and he was dragged to the regret chair. Filch? Something seems to be wrong, right? Shouldn't I be the one interrogating you? How come you are the one interrogating me? Is my memory wrong? What exactly went wrong? Click. With the sound of a door closing, Remy showed the same sinister smile as Filch just now, and there was nothing but ill intention in his eyes. In less than 5 seconds, the identities of the two people underwent a drastic reversal. It was not until then that Filch came to his senses. Facing Remy, he was not at all panicked, and even had a sarcastic sneer on his face. Do you know what you are doing? Wait until I tell Headmaster Dumbledore and you will be expelled, said Filch. What am I doing? Remy stood up and touched his chin with a smile. Didn't you say you would take me to a nice place to play? I brought you here so that I can play with you, not so that you can play with me. Filch glared at Remy. I brought you here to punish you for breaking the school rules. And now not only do you refuse to accept the punishment, you also tie me up. It seems that you can't wait to be expelled from Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. No, Remy held up a finger and shook it. Even though I'm late for class, blow things up after class, and tie up the castle administrator, I'm still a good student. Ahem, sorry for interrupting. What I want to say is that even if I violated the school rules, it should be Principal Dumbledore or Vice Principal McGonagall who should convict me. It is definitely not your turn to convict me, right? You are at best an executor of the punishment, but now you want to be a judge. You are so bold. The sudden shout scared Filch, and after Remy's reminder, he also reacted. Oh, I was so excited just now that I forgot to find Headmaster Dumbledore to convict this kid. It's really... Wait. What do you want to do? Filch's eyes suddenly widened and he looked at Remy in horror. No, don't do this to my cat. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.